Eagle 95.1, WUPN, Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.
It's time for The Game. Eagle 95.1 proudly brings you The Game, the Twin Sault's only regional and national sports show. For the next hour, we'll get an in-depth look at sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region and hear from coaches and players involved in The Game. Now, let's join Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, for tonight's broadcast of The Game on Eagle 95.1.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pain. And who's gonna make it?
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to The Game on Eagle 95.1. Also heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1, WUPN in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on this last Monday of April. Monday, April 29th, 2019. A very chilly day in the Twin Saults. Temperature as we record this show Monday evening around 40 degrees, some snow flurries, but that's okay because, well, May is just a couple days away. The snow is gone for the most part. Still see some piles of snow around, and some backyards still have some snow and water issues, but we are turning the corner as much as we can after a very long winter. This the Monday night edition of The Game, sponsored by Wicked Sister on Ashman Street, downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Head on down to the Wicked Sister. They have great appetizers, a very delicious menu for dinners, and, of course, a great beverage selection. The Wicked Sister, proud sponsor of The Game Sports Show here in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. We'll be joined in the next segment by Mr. Electric Avenue himself, Dave McKeag, host of The Game Sports Show in Sault, Ontario. We'll get Dave on to talk about what's going on in the NOJHL, Ontario Hockey League, and, of course, his thoughts on some Toronto-based sports. I know he still has a lot to say about the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Raptors, the Blue Jays, and more. We'll talk to Dave coming up here in our next segment. Then we'll be joined by Butch Davis from Butch on Sports, as Butch will be talking about, of course, the NFL draft and the Lions picks. A lot of people not liking it. I'm somewhere in between. I think maybe it's going to be okay. Maybe they made a couple mistakes, but you know what? I'm not emotionally invested in the Lions. Some of my friends really go all out in their displeasure of the NFL draft and the Lions on various social media forums. So we'll talk to Butch about that, the NBA, and all things Detroit sports related. Then the second hour of the show, we'll have our roundtable. Dave will rejoin us. Butch has to go a little early tonight. We'll also be joined by E.J. Russell from Moe's Bar in Escanaba, Michigan. But we always like to start with the local sports here on The Game. And we do have some high school sports, spring sports underway. I was walking my dog before the show, and I saw that the Sioux High track and field teams were having a very chilly practice at the athletic field, so hopefully they'll be seeing some meets coming up here soon. But we have seen some meets in downstate Michigan, as well as some softball games. In St. Ignace last Monday, the St. Ignace Saints swept the Sioux High Blue Devils in varsity softball. The Saints won the first game by the score of 12-7. Emily Hart, 4 of 5 for St. Ignace. She had a triple, 2 stolen bases for the Saints, while Heather Lamb and Sarah Lamb added 2 hits apiece. Elizabeth Duautremont had 2 hits for the Blue Devils, while Madison Odell hit a triple. Saints also won the second game by the score of 12-4. Watch out for that St. Ignace team. I saw them quite a bit last year when I was umpiring. A very young team. They have a catcher that's just an absolute stud out there. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with here over the next few years. Well, they took it out on Sioux High last Monday, winning the second game by the score of 12-4. Callan McColo had a double and single and 2 RBIs for Sioux High, while Emily Hart, Heather Lamb, and Kennedy Cammers had 2 hits each for St. Ignace. Rudyard softball on the road last Monday. They went 1-1 against Charlevoix. Charlevoix won the first game by the score of 11-8. Haley Van Sloten hit 2 home runs and drove in 4 runs for the Bulldogs, while Brooklyn Besteman, she also had a home run for Rudyard. The Bulldogs did recover and win Game 2 by the score of 12-4. Emily Curtis had 2 doubles and 3 hits along with 2 RBIs, and Paige Postma, she had a double, also collected the win on the mound for Rudyard. We're going to have hopefully more games this week. Not a lot of games to be had. I know Brimley was playing Newberry last week. Also, they played downstate. And, well, hey, it's almost May, so we'll see more high school softball and baseball results as we move along. Moving on to high school track and field, quite a few results in from last week. First of all, let's start with the Sioux High Blue Devils. They were in action last Thursday at the 14-school Inland Lake Bulldogs Invitational, and the Blue Devil girls won first place. First place winners for Sioux High, actually they had double event winners. Emily McLean, she won the shot put and discus. Lily Sheed won the 100 and 300 hurdles. Haley Knowles won the 400 and 800, and Jordan Scott all won double events, Jordan winning the 100 and 200 meter races. Sioux High won the meet, as I said, with 217 points. Brimley was runner-up with 83. Sioux High also did very well in the relays, winning the 800, 3200, 1600, and 400. Brimley's highest finisher was Caitlin Kroll. She finished second in the third. Second in the 200 and third in the 100. Blue Devil boys finished third in that meet, as Caleb Branta took second in a couple events, the 800 and 1600, and Brimley finished fourth. Austin Plotkin took second in the 3200 and fifth in the 1600. Sioux High was also in action on Tuesday of last week, participating in a triangular meet in Petoskey. Was Petoskey winning the girls' meet, followed by the Sioux. The Sioux did win 3 relays. Lily Alaspa, Jordan McKee, Maddie Blakesley, and Jordan Scott won the 400 relay. Lily Sheed, Jayla Jorgensen, Jordan Haller, and Jordan Scott, they took first place in the 800 relay, while Haley Knowles, Kaylin Burton, Jordan Haller, and Lily Scheid won the 1600. Scheid also won the 100 and 300 hurdles last Tuesday. Alpena won the boys' meet, followed by Petoskey. Petoskey won the boys' meet. There were 2 Petoskey teams in the field. Alpena, Petoskey, St. Michael's, and Sioux High finished last in that meet. St. Ignace, they had a very good meet last week, a couple good meets, including last Wednesday at the Ishpeming Dome Invitational. St. Ignace girls edged out Hancock for the title on Wednesday at Northern Michigan University's Superior Dome. St. Ignace senior Lily Becker dominated the 1600-meter run, winning that one. She also anchored the winning 1600 relay team. St. Ignace freshman Allie Schultz added a first in the 200, while teammate Brooklyn Brandstrom, she won the high jump. Sarah Lamb was runner-up in the hurdles, while Newberry senior Idrika Tomika won the pole vault in that one. Ishpeming won the boys' meet, followed by Newberry at second. Senior Jalen James, he won the 200 and long jump. The Indians also took the 800 relay. Cole Pocken, he was runner-up in the shot put for the St. Ignace boys. St. Ignace girls and Newberry boys won the outdoor track meet last Tuesday, as the Saints scored 108 points for the girls. Brimley was close, runner-up with 102, while Rudyard was third. Saints freshman Allie Schultz, she won the 100 and 200 dashes, while Haley Marshall won the 800. Elizabeth Becker won the 3200, and Brooke Brandstrom, she won the high jump. The Saints also took first in the 800 and 3200 relays, while for Brimley, Haley Gambardella, she won in the 100 hurdles along with the 400, while Tamissa Archambault won the shot put. Rudyard's Sydney Zerp won the 300 hurdles, while Rachel Beelan took first in the long jump. Newberry boys won that meet last Tuesday, while Brimley was second, followed by Rudyard and St. Ignace. Jalen James of Newberry, he took first in the 100 and 200 dash along with the long jump. The Indians also won the 400 and 800 relays, while Dayton Parrish of Brimley won the 110 and 300 hurdles. Austin Plotkin, also of the Bays, won the 3200, while Caleb Hornstra won the 1600, and Danny Anderson won the 800. The Bays also took first in the 1600 and 3200 relays, while Rudyard's Tate Besteman took first in the high jump, and Maxwell Trotter won the 400. Finally, Joe Kelly of St. Ignace took first in the shot put. So we do have spring high school sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula, and again, we'll get more of those as we move along into May. Now, a note about May, we will not have a show next week. As a matter of fact, we won't have any shows on our website, thegamesportshow.com, because I will be on vacation for a week. So we'll have our next show at the Wicked Sister on Monday, May 13th. Moving on to Laker Athletics. Of course, congratulations to all the graduates on Saturday. Had a chance to partake in some of the festivities after the graduation. Saturday night was a fun time, and again, very high accomplishments, and best wishes to all the graduating seniors, and especially the athletes that we know, and hopefully they're off to do bigger and better things. Well, one Laker that hasn't graduated, but he's off doing bigger and better things over in Estonia. Lake Superior State University hockey student Yuki Mura. He has joined the Japan national ice hockey team at the 2019 IIHF Men's World Championships going on in Tallinn, Estonia. Japan is in Division 1, Group B, with Poland, Estonia, Ukraine. Ukraine is weak. A little Seinfeld humor there. Romania and the Netherlands. And Group B play, easy for me to say, started yesterday. Mura, a sophomore from Tokyo, is majoring in kinesiology, scored 2 goals in 23 games for the Lakers, and he will be back next year. So good luck to Team Japan. Of course, Team USA and Team Canada will also be taking part in the World Championships. That in Kazakhstan. That was my bad Borat impersonation. Very nice, very nice. There we go. Going on here in May. Laker men's tennis finished 6th at the 2019 GLIAC tournament over the weekend. They would lose the 5th place match to Ashland, falling by the 4-1 count, as the Lakers also lost to Northwood in the opening match. But a very good season for the Lakers, making their first GLIAC tournament in almost 10 years, and a couple Lakers were named to the all-GLIAC team. Joe Gilman was one of those players, along with Mr. Tenija. I always get that name messed up there. They were named the all-men's GLIAC tennis team for 2019. Gilman earning first-team honors, and Tenija gathering third-team honors for the Laker men's tennis team. Finally, the Laker men's and women's track and field teams, they were in action this weekend at the 53rd Hillsdale College Gina Relays. On the women's side, sophomore Ashley Mullins finished 9th out of 35 competitors, as she had a record distance for her in the long jump. The jump is the longest of Mullins' 2019 outdoor season. In the 400-meter dash, junior Elizabeth Setsuda, she had a personal best time, which was good for 13th place, while sophomore Mariah Reed, she improved on her personal best in the hammer throw for the second consecutive meet, which is the longest for a Laker this season. On the men's side of the competition, freshman Dwayne Thompson, he finished 22nd out of 56 participants in the opening 100-meter dash. Freshman Andrew Giddens, he earned a personal best time in the 400-meter hurdles, finishing 7th place. And in the 800-meter run, sophomore Luke Pacino, he finished 20th out of 91 competitors. The Lakers are back in action at the 2019 GLIAC Outdoor Track and Field Championships on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week at Grand Valley State University in Allendale, Michigan. And that is your local sports roundup here in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and for Lake Superior State University. Coming up, we'll hear from Dave McKeag, host of the Game Sports Show in Sioux, Ontario. We'll recap the Ontario sports scene from a local perspective. We'll talk about the OHL Western Finals, Game 7 tonight between the Saginaw Spirit and the Guelph Storm. The Spirit, that team that knocked out the Greyhounds, well, they were up 3-1 against Guelph, but Guelph has come back to win the last two, and they were down 0-3 to London in the previous series and came back. So very interested to hear Dave's perspective on that. We'll also talk about the Sioux Thunderbirds. The Thunderbirds lost in 7 games in the NOJHL Finals to the Hearst Lumberjacks, and the Dudley Hewitt Cup will be happening here starting tomorrow in Cochrane, Ontario. And, of course, we'll talk NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. We'll focus on the Leafs and the Raptors because we'll be talking more about those in Hour 2 for the Roundtable, as well as the NFL Draft. Boy, did you see the amount of people that watched the NFL Draft? 600,000 fans over the 3-day event. And boy, the NFL made a very smart decision a few years ago to move the draft into these cities. Just a great event and some very interesting picks. Pittsburgh, I know Dave's going to be happy about them training up to get a local player, if you will, from Ann Arbor. And, well, we'll talk about that more with Dave, along with EJ Russell and Butch Davis. But coming up next, Dave McKeag joins us on the game here on Eagle 95.1 and heard online at thegamesportshow.com.
Get Wicked Catering from the crew at the Wicked Sister.
We like to think of ourselves as foodies. While our favorite foods are paired with a beer tasting at the Wicked Sister, you can now have the same creative menu for your next catered business luncheon, family get-together, wedding, or holiday party. Our white truffle risotto appeals to your gluten-free and vegetarian guests. Add sautéed shrimp or freshly grilled chicken for a pop of protein. Or let us build you a custom menu to suit your needs. From plated events of 15 to buffets for 200, the Wicked Sister will cater your event with tapas, snacks, cravables, or a full sit-down dinner.
The Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and special edition home to the game, Silver Creek Golf Course, located on 104 Bellow Lake Road, Garden River, Ontario. And also shout out thank you to Silver Creek GM Jamie Henderson. Silver Creek Golf Course has many specials to offer for 18 holes, 9 holes, and even Twilight Deal specials. It does not matter what your level of golf game is, it is a must to enjoy the scenic course, memorable experiences that Silver Golf Course offers. Silver Creek also offers a Thursday wing night for you to enjoy food after a stellar time on the course. You can book your tee time by phone or online at golfsilvercreek.com. Silver Creek Golf Course, where all are welcome to play.
The Game Sports Show wants to thank its original home, partner, and sponsor since 2015, Sports Center Bar and Grill, named the Sioux's best sports bar for 3 years in a row. Sports Center Bar and Grill is located on 624 Wellington Street West in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Make sure to come on down to Sports Center to enjoy the great atmosphere with great cold beverages available, including those delicious Molson products. Don't forget about their famous 75-cent wing nights on Wednesdays. They're truly the best wings in town. Like and follow Sports Center on Facebook at Sports Center SSM. We look forward to seeing you today. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Sioux's best sports bar.
Reach out, touch faith.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1, also heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on this chilly last Monday of April. Our show sponsored by the Wicked Sister. Head on down to the Wicked Sister. They're open right now. You can get yourself, well, lots of beverages or choices of beverages. You can also get lots of beverages, but bring a designated driver. They also have a fantastic dinner menu, drink specials, appetizers, and more. The Wicked Sister, host of our sports show on Monday nights. We'll be joined by Butch Davis coming up in the next segment from Butch on Sports, who will get us up to date on the Metro Detroit sports scene. Then we'll have our second hour roundtable. Butch has to leave a little bit early, but we'll be joined by EJ Russell from Moe's Bar in Escanaba, Michigan, and we'll be joined by this gentleman not only in hour 2, but right now. His name is Dave McKeag. He is host of the Game Sports Show in Sioux, Ontario. 3 locations: Sports Center Bar and Grill, Northern Superior Brewery, and Icebreakers inside the John Rhodes Community Center. Mr. Dave McKeag, how are you on this Monday night, my friend?
I'm doing good, Scotty. Definitely better today than I was this weekend. Had a little bit of the flu on Friday until going into the weekend. Didn't feel better really until Sunday. So still getting the end of the flu bug here. But for a Monday, getting back into work and trying to get back into the swing of things, doing pretty well, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Dave, and I clearly blame Drake for that. He's getting a lot of heat for the Maple Leafs, so I'm going to blame Drake for giving you the flu.
I like that. It's still definitely very fresh, that Leaf loss for some reason still. It's not sitting as good as it did in recent years. So I imagine we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's definitely, I definitely agree with you. I'll stick with the Drake thing. He's a curse.
Yes, indeed, Dave. And we'll get to the Leafs and Raptors and Jays coming up here in our segment. Well, let's start a little bit with local hockey. Not really local as far as the teams that are left playing in our area in the Ontario Hockey League, but I wanted to touch on this a little bit. First of all, the Ottawa 67s, and we've been touting them all year long, Dave, on your show, on this show, I know with Brad and everybody. The Ottawa 67s are the best junior hockey team out of the Ontario Hockey League, arguably in some time, as they are a perfect 12-0 in the playoffs. They swept through Oshawa in 4 in the East Final. They did have one game go to overtime, but that's about it. Oshawa has steamrolled the competition, so they're in to the OHL Final, and they are waiting for the winner of the Saginaw Spirit and Guelph Storm Western Final. Of course, we talked about it on your show and other shows. Saginaw, the team that knocked off the Sioux Greyhounds, they did lose their starting goaltender after Game 2 to a 5-game suspension when he swatted the puck into the crowd. I'm still trying to figure out why he even did that. Well, Guelph has capitalized. They were down 3-1 in the series. They won on Saturday by the score of 5-1. Actually, that game was yesterday. And so Game 7 winner take all tonight in Saginaw to see who will go to the OHL Finals. Dave, the Storm was down 0-3 to London. They completed that comeback. They're hours away from potentially doing it again. What do you think about the Wild West, and what do you think about Ottawa? I mean, does any team even have a chance against them right now? When I look at Ottawa's roster and look at their players, I see a team playing on NHL 19 on rookie mode out there. That's what I see a team playing. I don't understand. Like I get it, I should say, but understand how a team can be put together this well. I have not seen a team built like this. I think this team's even better built than what the Hounds were last year. Even though yes, they did lose to Hamilton in the finals, but they had a very good team. Did the Hounds last year, but this team is different with Ottawa than teams that I've seen in recent years, like the teams that London Knights have iced, when they had Patrick Kane, when they had Mitch Marner, when they had Max Domi, they had all those guys. What I see about Ottawa is that full, complete team from the net out. There's just something special to watch. And to answer your question, Scotty, I really don't. I think this team is going 16-0. Throughout the entirety of the playoffs. I didn't think they'd go 16-0 throughout the entirety of the playoffs from game 1. I would be a liar if I told you I thought they would. But winning the OHL championship was definitely something that you and I and everyone on our show and a lot of listeners and fans and OHL fans definitely predicted. So that does not surprise me, though, that they are 12-0. To be honest, I think that's a fantastic record, though. It's so damn impressive that they have the right team that can do it. It's not like this is a team that's a wild card seed, an 8 seed, talking like the NHL here, but like a lower seed that's doing this and being a Cinderella team. This team is top in their conference, the best teams in the OHL, and now they're showing it in the playoffs that they are the best team, and they're getting the job done. They are not cracking under this pressure. They're not like the London Knights where you finish the top seed in your conference and you lose in the second round. Okay, these guys are on a mission. They have a plan. They have a goal, and the whole team is bought into what the coaches want. The coaches have bought into what the owners want, and the fans have bought into what the owners, coaches, and players all want. Everything's just bought in Ottawa, and it's going extremely well. And for this team not to finish a perfect playoff record, now I'd say I'd be surprised if they didn't finish 16-0, let alone win a championship. Very impressive. But the Guelph Storm, another impressive story. That Nick Suzuki kid had an absolute nasty of a goal the other night with a spin through his legs and a little backhand nonsense going on. Confidence in that kid is absolutely flying. The team has pure confidence. Yes, Saginaw's missing their goaltender by a bonehead move. I'm going to start calling him Nazem Kadri 2.0 because of that bonehead that bonehead move. Okay, bonehead moves seem to happen, but let's be, he's a young goalie, a young guy. He's still maturing, so I give him the benefit of the doubt. But at the end of the day,
it's a move that you got to think before what you're doing. All right, you're in the playoffs. You're someone that the team really relies upon to get the job done and be there for your team, and you just really let your team down in that aspect. So if Saginaw can't get past the Guelph Storm tonight in Saginaw, a lot of it's going to be like, what if we had our number one goalie? What if we had our guy? At the end of the day, Saginaw still has a very good hockey team, okay? And they made some moves with McLeod and Tippett. You cannot count them out. I still can't see them losing this series, Scotty, to be totally honest. I'd be very surprised if Saginaw doesn't move on to the OHL championship. But what a story for the Guelph Storm. You know, they're down against London. They're down against Saginaw. They're battling back. This team does not quit until the final buzzer. They're the definition of a team not to give up or not to quit. A team full of hearts and team full of talent, given that as well. And, you know, I think Guelph, it went into every round. They're kind of like, okay, maybe the first round, we're a little bit of a favorite, you know, being that middle seed. Then when you go against London, everyone's like, okay, London's going to just steamroll these guys. It's not even going to be a competition. And it did look like that for the first 3 games, okay? But then Guelph Storm, it seems like on game 4, they woke up that morning and said, nah, we're going to play hockey today. And that's what it looked like. They did that whole series, battle back and beat London. And then you have, in this series against Saginaw, it's like on game 5, when they're down 3-1, they're like, nah, we're going to come back and play hockey again. It's like they're toying with the competition, showing that they just want to be down or something. But all jokes aside, this team is great to watch. But I think it's going to be tough in Saginaw. Very impressed with what Saginaw has. I really look at Saginaw's talent, and I can't see them being the type of group to fold up and put their lawn chairs away and put the lawn chairs on and start thinking of looking by the pool like the Toronto Maple Leafs did against the Boston Bruins. I think the Saginaw Spirit want to continue playing and not hit the golf course. So I'd be surprised if Saginaw would lose, as I mentioned, but still impressive by Guelph to battle back nonetheless.
Absolutely, Dave. And you said lawn chairs away. You're accurate. I put my lawn chairs out a few days ago, and they're definitely away with this weather. A little chilly out there tonight.
It is a little cold. You know, we had such a beautiful day on Sunday, or yesterday. I felt was an absolute gorgeous day, and the weekend was kind of but now it seems like the winter wants to come back for a bit. I don't understand here. It's supposed to be springtime. The ball fields are supposed to be getting cleaned off. They can't even get to that. It looks like ball season might not even be a thing this year. Maybe they're going to have to postpone baseball.
Well, they are playing some games downstate, Dave. We talked about that earlier.
Really?
Locally, it's going to take a little bit longer, but hopefully we'll get on the fields here momentarily, or at least in the next few weeks. Dave, we have another team to talk about, the Sioux Thunderbirds. You talked about them on your shows last week on thegamesportshow.com. Game 7 of the NOJHL Finals, the Thunderbirds were down 3-1. They win a game and force a Game 7, but it was too much. Hearst Lumberjacks scoring 4 goals in the second period for a 6-3 win as they won their first ever Copeland Cup. And so they advance to this week's Dudley Hewitt Cup, which will be happening in Cochrane, Ontario. Host Crunch, who haven't played in almost 2 months, along with Hearst. The other 2 teams participating in this event, the Oakville Blades out of the Ontario Junior Hockey League, a league that usually wins the Dudley Hewitt Cup, along with the Thunder Bay North Stars. No truth to the rumor that Ratke will be playing for that one. Of course, those of Youngblood interest know that reference. They're out of the Superior International Junior Hockey League. The tournament will start tomorrow, 2 o'clock. 2:30, actually, Hearst will take on Oakville, and then Thunder Bay will take on Cochrane with the championship game going on this weekend. Dave, Thunderbirds, good season, winning the West, competitive all year long. I thought maybe the one point of their game, maybe that wasn't the strongest, was goaltending. Not saying that goaltending cost them the game, but obviously that was something that hurt them in this series. But overall, a very good year for the Thunderbirds, and you know that team will be back next year.
And you know what? That team winning their division, winning the league, and going into force a Game 7, the finals, they didn't go down without a fight in the playoffs. And Hearst is a hardworking team, let me tell you. That team, no one should be surprised that they're able to beat the juggernaut as what they are, the Thunderbirds, because they're well coached, and they have a familiar foe on my end with the Marc-Alain Bégin, somebody I battle with in my days in the NOJHL, who also has played his time in Major Junior. They have a very good coaching staff there in Hearst, and they're just a feisty, good hockey team. When I see Hearst, I still see the same team that they used to ice back in the late 2000s and early 10s. You know, that I kind of – they're a very hardworking team, and the Thunderbirds, they're up 2-0. in that game in the first. And then Hearst, it's like they said, no, we got to battle back. And the Thunderbirds couldn't weather the storm after they're up 2-0. So I really think that the better team won in that game. I'm not saying the better team in that series. I still think the Thunderbirds did have a better all-around team, to be completely honest. I believe that the goaltending aspect, people are raising question marks too, absolutely. But it's a very tough position, and their goaltending has been pretty good all year between Call and also Anderson there. So they've had some good goaltending, I think, throughout the year. And just, you know what, it's like a lot of references in that last game. Everyone's going to look at that goaltending performance on that game 7, right? They might miss that performance in game 5, or they might miss that performance in game 4. Like, there's just other games in the series. I really think that the goaltending actually helped the Thunderbirds, and the Thunderbirds just weren't there, I think, to help him as much. You always depend on your goaltender. I always say this: you got to make the first save and the second save when it's in game 7, not just the first save. You got to make the first, second, and sometimes the third before the defense can clear. It's a different type of atmosphere, a different type of game. The Thunderbirds were down 3-1 in this series, okay? And I remember talking to Joey Miller upstairs at Center Ice, which is at the Pee Wee Arena at the Mayor's Cup. And we were moving on to the finals of the Mayor's Cup, and I was talking to Joey as they were getting set for game 5, and he was saying how they were down 3-1. And I was talking to Joey Miller, and he was like, Dave, we're battling back in the series. And he said, I can't believe we're down 3-1, though. It's a hard mountain to climb, but he's going to really depend on the strong performances from his goalies and from his players, and the players did do that. They battled back, made it 3-2. In game 6, they made it 3-3 in Hearst nonetheless, okay, which is not an easy travel. A lot of different prep. When you're Hearst, you're in that game 6, you have a chance to win at home. They had to weather the storm, did the Thunderbirds the first opening minutes of that game, and they did. And then they get to come back home. Hearst and the Thunderbirds had that matchup, and Hearst came out the better team in game 7 nonetheless. And, the Thunderbirds should not hang their heads low. It sucks to lose that far when it definitely does. It wouldn't be fair for me to say, don't worry about it, move on. That is absolutely not true. But you have that opportunity and that experience, and some retiring players don't get to come back next year and make change. But at least they do have a good amount of players who are returning, and hopefully they do, and hopefully they make some good adds this year. And I'm confident that they're able to ice a very competitive team again next year, along with make a run to the finals. Their goal was to win this year. They won more than maybe a lot of people expected. People didn't think they might win both the league and the division. They did, and they went to the playoffs, made the finals. They were 1 game away from winning, so they should not be upset. They had a good team. They'll be back, and they'll be back with a vengeance.
Yes, indeed, Dave. And one other note, the Sioux Eagles, of course, their season ended a little bit earlier than they wanted to. Well, they're already preparing for the 2019-2020 season. Boy, does that seem weird to say, as they are going to have their spring tryout camp at Big Bear Arena on May 23rd through the 25th. Anyone wanting to register can go to SiouxEagles.net, or they can call the Eagles office, as I usually have a chance to partake in some of that as well. As you know, Dave, the junior hockey season really never ends. It really is about a 12-month out of the year season. You get a little time after the playoffs are over, but it's a long haul, a junior hockey season. And before you know it, we'll be talking about the 2019-2020 season ourselves.
That is absolutely crazy when you say that. You know what I was just thinking about today? We're going into 2020, and I remember it like it was just yesterday watching the fireworks of the Roberta Bondar tent when it was the 2000 millennium. Okay, Like it's 20 years flies by, let alone a hockey season. And truthfully, like you said, the hockey's done when you finish. Doesn't matter if you win the championship or not. Like, look at the teams that are going on to Dudley Hewitt and they might go on to the RBC. Those guys only for sure get a month off, but it never ends here. It's always hockey all year round, especially here in the Twin Saults and here in Sioux, Ontario. Their season's done. Next week they have camp starting already, and that is absolutely amazing to see with how involved hockey is, especially in Canada and also over in the United States. I'm excited to start thinking about 2019-2020 because it's hockey time is always a good time, and it always gives us lots to talk about here. But I'm kind of looking forward to having a little bit of sunshine though, because with hockey season that means there's no sun in the sky. Okay, there's no pool, there's nothing. I'm hoping that these players can enjoy some downtime, as it is, like you said, a very short off season. But hopefully the players are all ready to go and excited for the upcoming season, because I know we are, Scotty.
Yes, we are. Dave McKeag joins us on the game. And, well, Dave, we're going to talk more about the NHL playoffs during the roundtable. Brief update last night, a couple games. Colorado over San Jose by the score of 4-3, tying that Western semifinal at 1 game apiece. How about the Carolina Hurricanes? Another win at New York. In Brooklyn by the score of 2-1. The Hurricanes lead that series 2-0. This is a team on January 1st that had the 4th worst record. They're right where the Red Wings were in the standings, and now they're 2 games away from the Eastern Final. Just a great story there. Columbus with a big double overtime victory on Saturday night. Boy, did their goaltender stand on his head in that game, evening that series at 1. Game 3 will be in Columbus tomorrow night. Game 3, Colorado, San Jose will be tomorrow. And then one other series tied at 1, only game tonight, Dallas taking on the St. Louis Blues. Dave, you talked a lot on your show Thursday about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I guess just a little postscript. I don't want you to go into too much detail on that because listeners can find that show at thegamesportshow.com. But I guess the big question I have on the Leafs, in addition to your thoughts, is Mike Babcock. He's been coaching a while, and I get the feeling that maybe not saying the game has passed them a bit, but things aren't going well as far as progression for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know a lot of people disappointed over there, and in general, Leafs fans thought maybe they could go a little further this year. And you look at the Sioux Greyhounds connection, of course, the general manager, Kyle Dubas, and you got a guy coaching the American Hockey League. I believe he's the highest paid coach, former Sioux Greyhounds coach Sheldon Keefe. There's a reason that they're paying him big bucks, because I think they want to keep him and potentially be the Toronto Maple Leafs head coach maybe sooner than we think. Your thoughts on that and the Leafs heading into the offseason?
Scotty, I still wake up in the morning absolutely disgusted about Toronto's performance in Game 7, and there were players that came out gunning inconsistently throughout the game. Their second period was, I think, flawless. The third period, you may as well have just stayed in the locker room, I really feel. And I know a lot of people look at Freddie Anderson. That guy, we wouldn't have even made it to Game 5, let alone Game 7, if it wasn't for him. So I have nothing bad to say about Anderson. I have loads and bad to say about Gardner and Dermott, but I won't get into that. He just loves giving the Boston Bruins the puck and letting them score goals in Game 7s. I really think Gardner loves it. He gets excited, and all he thinks about is letting Boston win in Game 7, I think. And the Bruins took the Gardner Expressway once again to the second round. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Gardner was a Boston Bruin after the end of the offseason. That'd be pretty ironic. I wouldn't be surprised, and I have a good chuckle at that. But all jokes aside, about Mike Babcock. All right, I remember when the Leafs signed him, how excited and pumped I was. And when they first got him, that's when the Mark Acabello days, and they had basically an AHL team in the NHL. And we end up getting Austin Matthews in the draft, and you got Marner in the lineup. Babcock really changed Nazem Kadri's game. I'll give him credit. If it wasn't for Babcock, Kadri would probably be on the Arizona Coyotes on the 4th line somewhere. No offense to Arizona. But you have a coach who actually changed and developed a lot of these players. But there's a guy that, if you want to even date back to when he was with the Red Wings, what round did he get eliminated when he was last coaching the Red Wings? First round against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So yep. I'll say right now that the last 4 playoffs that Mike Babcock has been a part of, he has not gotten out of the first round. And he's either lost in Game 7 or he's lost in Game 6. Game 6, I believe, was the Red Wings one. If I remember correctly, it was in Tampa, I believe. But when you look at Washington, that was Game 6, and then you have the double Game 7 losses to Boston the last 2 years. So I'll say Mike Babcock, is his coaching in question? Absolutely. The guy knows what he's doing, though. He's a legend. He's the highest paid coach in the National Hockey League for a reason. But what I look at is the analytics side, which is all Toronto does nowadays because of Kyle Dubas. And everyone has bought in that are Toronto fans to these analytics. And look at the numbers of what he has people on the power play, how much he doesn't change it. Last minute, he has Patrick Marleau out there on the ice with not Mitch Marner. I don't understand. I really don't understand a lot of these moves that he made in the coaching situation. He got out-coached by Bruce Cassidy, of the Boston Bruins. So,
the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, there you go. Then I really think that Mike Babcock has a lot of questions to answer, not even to Dubas. And people can look at, ever since we've had my discussion about the Toronto Maple Leafs in our previous show at Northern last week, and we're probably going to have more this week because of Stephen Dangle's video, who's a part of Sportsnet. He's the guy who's loud and annoying, people like to call him, but he had a 32-minute video that I actually tuned into before we came on air here, and he brought out a lot of good points, and he was speaking at a high volume, so please keep the volume down if you listen to him, but he brought up a lot of good points along with Kyle Dubas' press conference, and Kyle Dubas said, I can't evaluate this team until I'm evaluated. And what he meant by that is Shanahan's going to evaluate his job before Dubas has to evaluate other people's jobs. And let's be real, Dubas is not going anywhere. Okay. Shanahan's a big fan, and also Shanahan's a good friend with Mike Babcock. So do I see change on the coaching end? No, I really don't. Dubas to fire Mike Babcock as move would be huge, but Sheldon Keefe is waiting in the wings, and his Marlies just swept a good team in the Rochester Americans in the AHL. He's won an AHL championship. He's young. A lot of these young kids like Legiron, potentially Sandin, these young kids are going to be coming up to the Leafs eventually soon, and Sheldon Keefe has been a part of this team. He knows, how guys like Kasperi Kapanen, Travis Dermott, he knows these guys, and he's gotten the best out of Dermott in the AHL. Heck, he even got the best out of Martin Marincin when he got sent down the AHL. He's one of their best defensemen. That guy's god-awful. And I really think that Sheldon Keefe has to get a look, and he's getting the highest paid rate because there's teams that are lining up to sign him. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers, the list goes on and on and on and on. And now you got the people looking at DJ Smith on the Leafs bench, who's an assistant coach. It'd be very interesting to see potentially. And I know one of our panel members on the Game Sports Show on the Canada side here, Matt Primo, disagrees with this philosophy of mine. But why shouldn't Sheldon Keefe get the call up next year to the NHL as an assistant coach? And the reason why I say that is you have DJ Smith right now that is in a position that he's going to probably get a head coaching job somewhere. Okay. It seems like that is where he is going to go. And if he does get a head coaching job, does Sheldon Keefe come up? Now, with Sheldon Keefe being over as assistant coach to Babcock, what if Babcock doesn't get out of the first round next year? You got an easy transition. I'm actually a fan of it. I think Babcock needs to have somebody like Sheldon Keefe, who I know is a guy that will tell Mike to don't do that. And even though he's a rookie and he'll look at Mike Babcock and be like, well, this is a legend. Sheldon's not a shy guy. Sheldon will tell Mike, and I've met Sheldon numerous times. I will second him, and he'll tell Mike, why the bleep are you putting this guy on the ice? Pull him off. That is how Sheldon is. And that's why I think maybe Sheldon should get the call up to the NHL next year as the assistant coach, put a little fire under Babcock. And if Mike Babcock can't handle it, well, so be it. So to kind of give it more of the Coles notes on the Mike Babcock side of things, for him to get fired, I can't see that happening. I really don't think it should. I think he does deserve another chance because the Leafs are still 2 years ahead of their rebuild plan, and despite where fans want them to be. But I think he deserves another year. But you got to make sure Sheldon Keefe stays a part of the plans. And Scotty, I just got to say, we'll get into more rant and talk about it especially in the roundtable. But I am sick and tired of being let down. Okay, I've made a reference about my ex-girlfriends in my previous show. I won't say it on this one. Okay, I'll keep that one. I'll make sure I don't say it. That the Leafs are one of the most least unfaithful things I've ever had. Okay, they for some reason they keep letting everybody down. It's always an excuse. Jake Gardner. Oh, maybe next year. Oh, Mike Babcock. Oh, look, we signed John Tavares. Our offense is great. Oh, great. Travis Dermott and Gardner are playing together. Whoop, there's a -3 rating. Oh, Zaitsev's on the ice. Oh my God. Like all there is excuses after excuses after excuses, and each year Boston beats us, or a team gets out coaches Mike Babcock, or a team just out coaches us in general, or the goalie outplays our star-studded goalie for a game, and everyone points to blame. I'm fed up with this. I don't care about a popularity contest. I read an article that Dubas was trying to get one of Subban, Doughty, or Aaron Ekblad at the trade deadline. I don't know where he thought he was going to get that at the trade deadline. I really don't have an idea, because that's not where you make those blockbuster trades. But if you have to trade Nylander, if you have to trade somebody who you give a contract to, I'm not here for a popularity contest, okay? I know I'm a sports guy, and we try not to – I don't talk about just one team on our show, talk about numerous teams. But when I'm outside of our sports show and I'm watching my favorite team, I've went through a lot of heartache, a lot of BS with this team, as long as – and just as much as everybody else has. I can even imagine the 50-plus-year-olds who haven't even seen a cup, let alone I think I've seen more playoff action than they may have had in the past 50 years. Okay, but the thing is, I really, really am fed up, Scott, about the excuses. This team needs to get its act together, and they need to put a team on the ice that is going to be proud to wear that crest, like John Tavares was, and Mitch Marner was, and Freddie Anderson, and Muzzin. There's a couple guys that are proud to wear that crest, but I just want a team that wins. I don't give a crap. I don't need a prima donna like William Nylander. Jake Gardiner, I'm going to sing down my parents' street when I move back home, and run down Third Line West yelling, "Thank God William Nylander's gone playing the na 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 hey hey song." I cannot wait for it. I just really think that the Leafs have to get something done and stop playing the popularity contest. Just build a hockey team and get a team on the ice that is going to win games and bring us the cup, because we are craving it, and I'm done. I've just lost all faith, and just the effort that I saw on the D end of the game is my big emphasis there, on the D end of that game, and the coaching plays in that game. I'm just done with each time there's an excuse, each time there's stuff, and there's each year Leaf fans are getting chirped and harassed like the end of no tomorrow. Why isn't it our time? Why can't Dubas, he signed Tavares. Let's not stop there in the offseason. Let's make a team that wants to win and that's going to win, and that's going to bring pride and joy back to where hockey deserves to have its pride and joy in Toronto.
Dave, I'm going to give you a little words of advice. You sounded like me about 10 years ago. It was a little over 10 years ago when I was full-time in radio. Myself and our good friend Paul Van Wagner, we had a morning talk show every week. And, boy, I would come on Mondays just like you right there, talking about my beloved Detroit Lions. One playoff win in 62 years. They haven't even been in the Super Bowl. They haven't had a championship since 1957. So that got 10 years on the Leafs in that one, but I came and I was just fired up. The Lions, they would ruin my weekend. I'd watch them and just get so mad and so frustrated. I'd go on the air and I just would just be like you just said right there, and tired of everything, tired of the excuses, tired of hearing this and that. And so finally I decided, you know what, I'm done with these guys. And I divorced myself of the feelings with the Detroit Lions. Now, that doesn't mean I don't root for them. That doesn't mean that I still want them to do well or don't want them to do well. I'll tell you, ever since then, my life has been so much better. I can laugh at the Lions when they go 3-13. I can laugh at all the fans in August that get so excited about Matt Stafford, the guy that's going to take us to the next level, and and I watch the games. And yes, again, I want them to do well. I root for them, but I'm not emotionally invested in that team like I am some other Detroit teams like the Tigers and the Red Wings, certainly not as much as Michigan State and the local teams. So I don't know if that's the route you want to take, Dave, but it is a much easier time watching a team that frustrates you year in and year out. I'm Lions free. That's what I call myself as far as my emotions and feelings. I hope they do well. I hope they win a playoff game in my lifetime. But if they don't, that's okay too, because you know what? It's just sports. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Many other things matter in life. So that's just that's our Mensa meeting here, Dave, on the show. I know you're a Leafs fan. I know you're always going to root for them. But maybe if this happens again in the future, you want to take some time off for them. Maybe separate for a while, live in different houses, whatever you got to do. But that might be a way to maybe cope with a team that has disappointed you year in and year out.
I like that advice, Scotty. That's good. I don't know if I can ever take that road, because I think if I cut my skin, it bleeds blue. I think it's kind of an attached loyalty. Maybe I'm a sucker for pain. I'm not too sure. But I really think that things are going to turn around Toronto, and I really think Dubas is going to make those changes, because if he doesn't, he's not going to have a job, nor is Babcock going to have a job, nor is Shanahan going to have a job. They'll do another full clean-out, because in Toronto, that's how they are. And they have a great team, that team, and I'm very confident they will make change. I will stay emotionally invested, but if I get let down again, I'll still cheer for him, Scotty, but maybe I'll try to take the laughing technique like you mentioned.
Like it, Dave. Very good, very good. Well, let's get to a Toronto team that is doing much better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're still playing the Toronto Raptors. Game 2 tonight at I still call it the Air Canada Center. I don't even know what it's called now, but in Toronto, between Toronto and the Philadelphia 76ers. Big night in Game 1. Kawhi Leonard, 45 points. You have Siakam with 29. The Raptors up 1-0 against Philadelphia. We're going to talk more NBA playoffs in general in hour 2, and I got a lot to say about the officiating we've seen in some games already, which we've talked about. But Dave, let's look at the Toronto Raptors. They lost that first game against Orlando, and then cruise for the rest. And you look at what Boston did to Milwaukee, really taking Milwaukee apart yesterday. That's still a long series, and Milwaukee is the favorite. But right now, things looking good for your Raptors.
They are looking fantastic. And there's something about Kawhi right now. I don't know if he's possessed or what, but his face emotions and his actions on the court, he's not laughing. He's just grinning and playing basketball. I'm not too sure if I ever know. I don't even know what he does outside of basketball, if he even talks. I'm not too sure. The guy, it means business, and I love it. We need it with the Raptors. I'm just so impressed of the way he's been playing throughout the playoffs, and just in Game 1, he took over. Okay, and he was a force. Serge Ibaka was playing defense that I haven't seen him play. Marc Gasol, his leadership is what we acquired. We give a pretty decent amount to get him at a defensive player of the year before, and he's showing that. And the 76ers team is a team that cannot hold its composure. They're young. I find they're a very immature team at times. I'm Jimmy Butler. I'm a fan, but there's a guy that gets real heated, and there's a guy on the Raptors and Kyle Lowry who used to get really distracted by the referees. And if you see a play where he was looking at the ref after a foul and actually Kawhi tapped him on the side and told him to cut it out. I know people maybe didn't see that, but Kawhi is immersed as the leader of this team. People think this is Kyle's team. No. This is Kawhi Leonard's team, okay? And he is a leader on the bench. You can see him. He's actually kind of vocal, which people might be surprised about, but the guy is proving why he's one of the best players in the National Basketball Association. And I really think that the Raptors are playing a different level, where people were raising questions why they had inconsistencies in the season and this load management with Kawhi Leonard, which I still laugh at. I'm not a fan of, but you know what? Obviously it's working right now. So Nick Nurse is not looking like an idiot. I really think that Kawhi Leonard is emerging as a guy who is saying, this is my game. Get on my back. I'll carry you guys. And I'm loving that attitude. Ibaka's feeding off it, as I mentioned. Danny Green is another big leader in that locker room and on the court. Just all in all, the Raptors are looking fantastic. And it makes me very excited to see, because there's yet another team I've been cheering for. All the Toronto teams, I'm a Toronto fan, and the Blue Jays have let me down. The Leafs don't even want to. We don't need to go there again. The Raptors have had such a good team for the past 5+ years, and they haven't been able to get past LeBron, not the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's LeBron. And now LeBron's not in the picture. And what I'm seeing on the court right now from the Raptors is just seem like they can't be stopped. After that first game, it's like they went in the locker room and said, oh, crap, we're in the playoffs here. We better smarten up. And they did. And they absolutely thumped Orlando for the rest of the series. And if they play the way they did the other night against Philly again tonight, Philly will not stand a chance. I'm sorry. Philly's got a good young team. They'll be potentially another dynasty in the East in the future, I think, with Simmons and Embiid and those guys at the helm. But this is the Raptors' time right now, and they're showing as to why. And the Celtics, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he didn't. The Celtics held them pretty good. And the Celtics, there's a team that I thought was going to be a team that had a chance to be one of the top teams with the Raptors in the East. Earlier, when I predicted the season, I had the Raptors 1 and the Boston being second in the division is where I had them pegged. And the Celtics being right behind the Raptors, like a half a game or a game. That is where I had the Celtics this year. And obviously that didn't happen. The Celtics had a lot of ups and downs this year, a lot of locker room stuff going on. And Kyrie Irving, he's playing some great basketball. This is a whole Celtics team right now that is just absolutely impressive. And I think they can beat the Bucks. I think that series is going 7, and I think we might see a Toronto-Boston, and no, not the NHL and the NBA. Might see an Eastern final between those two teams, and what a series that would be. But nonetheless, the Celtics looking very impressive, holding off the first-seeded Bucks. They played them right, and they are playing strong, are the Celtics. But again, backtracking to the Raptors quick, loving what I'm seeing on the court from all the guys. Nick Nurse's coaching is fantastic. People are not maybe looking into what he's doing at the right time, putting the right guys on the court. His plays that he's drawing up are very defensive, and they're working for each player. Serge is in this area, and that's where his zone is. Nick Nurse had a little interview that he's had on one of our outlets here in Canada. This is what he wants his players to do, and this player does that. That's all he wants them to do. Each player has an assignment, and he's a good coach, and he's doing his job, and he's got the good players to be a good coach. The Raptors looking great. The Celtics looking great. Do I see a final there? I think I do. I think the Bucks are going to get defeated by the Celtics. You heard it here first.
Yeah, the Boston Celtics, a lot of those players have been there before, where Milwaukee, not so much. I think you might be onto something there, Dave. Dave, time for one more topic here. I'll just kind of touch on the Toronto Blue Jays. Don't look now, but the Blue Jays are at 500 after their sweep at home against Oakland, just 4.5 games back of the Tampa Bay Rays. That's right, the Rays in first in the American League East. Yankees, despite all the injuries up there, and Boston still struggling at 11-17. Dave, a lot better result for the Blue Jays as of late.
Oh, definitely great. And the swagger of Vlad Jr., let me tell you, it's
I like
the guys. The guy's getting ovations at Raptors games. He was getting ovation at Leaf games when he was there. Heck, if he wins a World Series, they're gonna have a statue out there of him. I don't mean this year. I mean in the future. Let's pump the brakes there. But I would like to see this year, but I think it'd be unrealistic to wish that. And every time I wish my team's gonna win, they usually don't. So I'm just gonna be open-minded about how they're doing. They had a slow start, obviously, and the Blue Jays have brought in, Eric Sogard, and Freddie Galvis, and Randall Gritchick is having that full-time slot at center field. And Justin Smoke is playing some great defensive ball again. And Vlad Jr., I love it. I'm getting a Vlad Jr. t-shirt already made, so I'm already on the bandwagon. I was always a fan of Senior. Now seeing Junior there, and he's built exactly like his old man. It's the same player. I've seen Vlad Senior play. It's legit the same swing. It's the same running style. I think Junior might have a little bit more IBSs on him than Senior did, but definitely exciting. And fans should be optimistic. And Stroman, there's a guy that's pitching right now that is confident in his pitches. And the bullpen, they have a lot of youth in that bullpen that are getting a lot of chances to play and development. And Charlie Montoya, got to give the guy credit as the manager of the Jays. He's working with these young guys. Okay, this isn't John Gibbons, who I was never a fan of him being there in the first place, as well as Scotty, and anybody else. Having Charlie there is a great young coach, has been involved in that minor system. He's worked his way up. He's got that mentality and his swagger on his end that players just want to buy in on what he wants as a coach as well. And when I see that Blue Jay team, I don't see a team that are full of Boston Red Sox talent that are beneath the Blue Jays, I believe, right now by 3 games, I believe is what it is. I'm not too sure exactly right now off the top of my head, but you have the Blue Jays right now that are in a position of these guys that are Eric Sogard, as I mentioned. They just signed Ben Revere to another minor league contract. These are guys that are good ball players, not great ball players who are going to hit 30-plus home runs. They're the right players that are going to play small ball. They're going to hit balls to get on base. I'm going with a Moneyball reference here with the Oakland Athletics back with Billy Beane and the movies and all that stuff. I like players that are just there to get a base hit, get another base hit, bunt, get a steal. Oh, okay, do a sacrifice. Okay, get a guy at second, get a guy out at first. Vlad Jr.'s coming up. Okay, we got to make sure we get a runner on second or third. They're playing the game right is what they're doing. They're playing the analytics side of the game is what I find, and that is what's working for them. They have power in their lineup with Smoke, obviously with Guerrero there now. It's too bad that Bo Bichette won't get a look for a while because he broke his finger. So I really think that the Blue Jays I'm really surprised they're 500. I think they're going to finish the year at 500. That's kind of where I pegged them. Maybe 10 games below is where I had them pegged. But to see how well they're doing shows a lot of potential that this team is gelling well together, and fans should be very optimistic about this year, where we could have a great ending to our season, but nonetheless, I'm very optimistic about the future.
Dave McKeag joining us on the game. Of course, you can hear Dave on our website, thegamesportshow.com, also thegamesportshow.podbean.com, as he will have some shows this week. We'll talk more about that at the end of the show. Dave, we got a couple minutes. Any other local or regional sports items that you'd like to bring up here before we get to Butch in our next segment?
I'll give a shout out to Sioux Minor League Baseball Association. You can find them on Facebook with this Sioux Major Baseball Association there, and they have the website all locked up there where you could sign up for baseball. We obviously have the men's open division that the Game Sports Show will be sponsoring another team, which is great. Of course, our team that we have, but there's minor league baseball, there's Black Sox baseball that are coached by the Game Sports Show's players' own Ashley Hoff is named, great ball player. They have Jordan Trudeau there at the helm as well. There's some good coaching in that Black Sox program. So if you want to get involved in the baseball and stay active in the summer sports, you can sign up there on the Sioux Major Baseball Association website. You can just hit register now. You sign up, choose the league that you want based on your year, and you pay. It's very simple. They had the early bird registration already passed. It's now $190 opposed to $175 for the registration, but you're guaranteed well over 10 games, especially if you're playing in the men's open league. But if you're younger, you're playing on the traveling team. There's different travel schedules and playing schedules, but you get the experience to play. And you should encourage your friends to sign up as well, as baseball is a growing sport in Canada. And it's a big credit to the Blue Jays' success back in early 2015. And I think it should be continued to grow in Canada. So I really encourage, if you're looking for something to do in the summer, sure. You don't have to be like me, where I like to sit beside the pool, have a cigar and a nice glass of scotch. That's what I like to do on my summer days, opposed to going to the gym or working out as much, because I feel like I got a good dad bod commenced already. At the end of the day, you want to stay active in the summer as best as possible. And I think if you're not out in the water or if you're not at camp, why not join baseball? It's once or twice a week. Make sure you look that up and sign up. It's very good to be involved in that. And in terms of local as well, hockey camps are going on. Don Beluca has his usual camp going on, the Driven Hockey Camp as well. And you can reach out to Jamie Henderson, who's involved with a lot of hockey camps as well. You can get in touch with him. And if you're interested in playing the Junior Greyhounds program, it's now been changed to the midget Greyhound program, as it was rebranded and logoed as put on Jay Hendo 9's Instagram page. So if you want to get involved with some hockey camps, you can reach out to him, or even reach out to myself. I will direct you in the right direction. Lots of stuff locally in terms of baseball getting locked and loaded, and SaberCats. Obviously, we're going to be talking SaberCats on our show this Wednesday with Jamie, and hopefully Matt Primo will be there as well. And SaberCats going to get their season locked and loaded very soon. So lots going on. So don't hesitate to ask and reach out for what's going on locally.
Absolutely, Dave, and we'll keep listeners up to date on the local, regional, and sports scene all year long here at the Game Sports Show. Dave, we're going to have you take a little bit of a break here while we talk to Butch Davis coming up in our next segment, but I just heard from E.J. Russell. He sold a car today, or at least that's what he says. You never know, being a car salesman. He's going to join you and I during the roundtable in hour 2. Lots to talk about. We'll talk more about the NHL playoffs. We'll talk about the NBA playoffs, especially officiating, some of the things we saw yesterday. And we have to talk about the NFL draft, a star-studded lineup as far as content and, I would like to say, participants in our roundtable. So, Dave, we'll talk to you then.
Sounds good, Scotty. I'll be waiting for your call back, my friend.
Sounds good. We're going to take our next break on the game. We come back, we'll talk Detroit sports with Butch Davis from Butch on Sports. He'll talk about the Lions draft, the Red Wings, the Pistons, the Tigers, and more. That's coming up on the game here on Eagle 95.1 and online at thegamesportshow.com.
The Wicked Sister, Sioux, Michigan. Check TripAdvisor, ranked right towards the top. Awarded the Certificate of Excellence, as well as voted #1 pub in the UP. The Wicked Sister has managed to create a casual menu that offers unique, creative, and sometimes healthy offerings that rivals menu selections of any big city. Burgers and starters, snacks and shareable soups and salads, sandwiches and tapas. On Ashman Street, Sioux, Michigan. Welcome to the Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show is pleased to shout out a partner, additional home, and sponsor to Northern Superior Brewing Company, located on 50 Pym Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Northern Superior Brewing Company having a strong presence locally with many beers to offer. With much involvement in the community of Sault Ste. Marie, Northern has a sport and friendly-like atmosphere within its tap room, and during the summer months, it is a must to visit Pier 55 to enjoy some delicious food, amazing view of the water, and view of the Bush Pulling Museum right on the cusp of the Hub Trail, and of course, all of that down with a delicious brew from Northern Superior. Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a northern thing.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1. Also heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 in, well, drizzly flurry like Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on this cold last Monday of April. We'll be joined by E.J. Russell and rejoined by Dave McKeag in hour 2 of the game in our next segment during the roundtable. We're joined right now by our co-host and regular weekly contributor Butch Davis from the radio show Butch on Sports, which you can find on this podcast page as well as his own podcast page at Simply Butch 2. That's TOO.podomatic.com as Butch joins us each and every week to talk about what's going on in the Detroit and sports world. Butch, I know weather isn't any better down in your part of the world. How you doing tonight?
We're just hanging on in there. It's wet and dry, wet and dry, wet and dry here.
Yes, indeed, Butch. And, well, let's start off with, you talked a lot about this on your show yesterday, Butch on Sports, the special Sunday edition, talking about the Detroit Lions and their 2019 NFL draft. Lots of people have lots of opinions on these draft picks. I'm kind of a wait-and-see guy when it comes to these. It's really hard to project and predict. And, you know, General Manager Bob Quinn, he has a plan, and he believes, at least to the best of my knowledge, that these are the best fits for his football team. Of course, the big news, taking a tight end in the top 10. This is something the Lions have done a couple times over recent years, taking tight end T.J. Hawkinson with the 8th pick overall. And then the second round pick, maybe a surprise by many, Jahalani Tavi of Hawaii, the linebacker, taken in the second round. Will Harris, safety from Boston College, in the third. A pick I like, the defensive end out of Clemson, Austin Bryant, in the 4th round. Also have a cornerback out of Penn State, Amani Oruwai, in the 5th round. 6th round, wide receiver Travis Fulgham out of Old Dominion. Also a running back out of Maryland in the 6th round, Ty Johnson. And then another tight end in the 7th round, Isaiah Nauta out of Georgia. And finally, defensive tackle out of Arizona, P.J. Johnson, taken in the 7th round. Butch, just want to get your overall thoughts on the Lions picks and what you think about what happened this week in Nashville. A wild scene down in Nashville.
Well, it's going to get wilder, too. You know, next year, you just can't wait until they get to Las Vegas here.
Vegas, baby.
It'll be really a stinker there. We all plan our goals right now to get down there. All of us should be down there.
I think so, Butch. I think we need to plan that now.
Yeah, right now, as soon as possible. I mentioned last week, and this is not a slap in the Lions' face or anything else, but they need game breakers there. They need game breakers like a hog needs slop, okay? They did not have none. They don't have any. Item number 2, they got to have people who want to be dedicated and be in the city of Detroit, full-fledged, not only just collecting a paycheck, but going in there and doing the bidding of the coaches and the general managers on what they need to do in order to have a successful team. I think they got something, okay? They did a lot of flushing the toilet by basically getting rid of many players this year who was maybe expected to be re-signed or whatever it may be. They're gone. The T.J. Hawkinson deal, I've seen him play. He is outstanding. One of the catches that I made so far, that it was very surprising when I did all my research and whatnot there, that the highest tight end last year for the Detroit Lions only collected 21 balls, okay?
Wow.
1 catches, okay? 14 other tight ends have more than him. And within them 14, okay, they surpassed the Lions of all tight ends on the team making catches and whatnot there. So the tight end position is a very vital position if you're going to do some deals. Perfect example, okay? This guy didn't perform for the Lions for 3.5 years, but by golly, when he went to Indianapolis, he become a Pro Bowl, okay? And that's Embron, okay? We got to have some people who want to be here, be obedient to the process, and do a job. And this guy looks like he's a dedicated young man who wants to show everybody that, I'm just glad to be in the NFL. And just do his due diligence there. Now, the second draft pick that we talked about there, and that's Jelania Tavar, okay? He reminds me of Troy Polamalu of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He reminds me a great deal of it. This guy stayed hurt the majority of the year last season there. However, the Lions, in talking to Quinn on Saturday afternoon, he said, well, we had him on our table for quite some time, since late September, early October of last year. I said, really? Because, no one would recognize that. And of course, Detroit Lions fans don't get a lot of West Coast unless you're watching football late night, maybe on ESPN, and you might so happen to see an Hawaii game or something. Very seldom we get to see that. But again, they make a pick like that. So something's into the picks that the Lions get of need. Every player they pick, I do believe the need is there. Especially, I like the Clemson pick, just like you do, because, again, this guy played hurt. And we've had a lot of attention with linemen being hurt with the Detroit Lions and not being able to play at all. And you can't count on someone who basically don't do anything, but yet and still you got them counted up before preseason. I tell people, sometimes some media you just don't listen to here,
Yep.
Listen to our show, though, because we're always right. We do our work here.
Darn right we do.
So it's not demeaning, but it's very refreshing that you get some players, and then again, the 4th draft pick from Clemson, because this guy played hurt. However, after the season has ended, he got his championship, he didn't sit around. He went out there and got taken care of, okay? He got taken care of right away. So the surgeries and whatever it may be is on Clemson, but again, this young man is getting himself together so he can come into camp and participate in the process.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, let's move on to the Detroit Tigers. Tigers started off the week very nicely, winning a doubleheader in Boston. Well, things haven't gone their way ever since, losing a couple games in Boston, then going to Chicago. They lost on Friday night in a wild 12-11 game. They got snowed out on Saturday, and, well, it looks like the batters took the day off yesterday. The Detroit Tigers struck out 20 times in the game, tying a major league record for a 9-inning game as they lost to the White Sox by the score of 4-1. The Tigers will be on the road for a pair of games at Philly before coming home to take on the Kansas City Royals this week. And Butch, we knew there'd be some ups and downs this season, but definitely the Tigers had some downs this weekend, striking out 20 times on Sunday.
Well, that's a disgrace. And the management staff, the coaching staff, the players, they all should be embarrassed. That is a joke. And the first person I'm going to look in the eye is not only the manager of the team for allowing it to happen, but I'm going to look at the hitting coach, okay? I'm going to look at the hitting coach, and I'm going to say, hey, look, what are you doing or what are you not doing that these kids don't have the attention of you to get better? That's what I'm going to be saying. And we cannot improve, then further action will be taken. And if we didn't like it at that point in time, then further action would have been taken then. That is unexcusable, that what we saw this weekend. And we're not talking about just to strike it out on that particular day, which is Sunday. We're talking about all the rest of that week, and we're talking about a balance of the season right now. The Detroit hitting has not been very good at all. It's been very disgraceful, okay? I think, in the process there and going through players who you pick and they're not panning out. Mikey Mantus is one of them, where right now he's in the minor league system back again there. You got Jones, who's just getting called up. You're giving him every chance in the world. He's not hitting. He might need to go back down to get some freshening. I think the process and of how the manager deal with the players coming up here, you got to be ready to go and jump in at full-fledged, okay? And our players are not doing that. They're acting as though they're in the rest home or in a favorite resort, okay, and have to do little to nothing at all. The pitching right now, as far as the starting pitching is concerned, with some of the pitchers, it stinks, okay? It stinks very bad. Zimmerman, they need to make a decision on him and either allow him to get rid of himself or drop him down to maybe the bullpen or something, but he's not a consistent pitcher anymore. He doesn't have it.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, let's move on. Since you can't join us in the roundtable, wanted to talk a little bit about the Pistons and Red Wings, but overall the NHL and NBA playoffs. Let's start with the NHL playoffs. There's been some good games over the weekend. You have one game tonight, Dallas and St. Louis. That series tied at 1 with Dallas winning the last game. You had a couple games last night. Carolina over the Islanders 2-1. The Hurricanes lead that series 2-0. That Raleigh rink is going to be rocking tomorrow down in Carolina. Don Cherry not happy, I'm sure, watching those guys who he called jerks, I believe, earlier in the season. Colorado gets back in their series against San Jose, winning last night 4-3. That series tied at 1. And Columbus, double overtime against Boston on Saturday night, winning by the score of 3-2. That series tied at 1. So Butch, we saw the first round obviously had a lot of excitement, some upsets, and right now the second round, maybe not quite to that level early in these series, but shaping up to be an exciting time in the NHL for round 2.
Well, again, listen to our show, boys and girls.
Yep.
Tell friends and listen to our show, because we stood out. E.J. Russell, especially here, we got it. You let him hear the recording here. That guy went out on a limb, and he really went out on a limb. He was very confident about the Carolina team there.
Yes, he was.
Very confident there. Watch out for those particular individuals. I have been very confident about the Carolina team, especially when Don Cherry jumps into play and he feels that what you need to do in order to be a very good hockey team. If he had all that influence, and why is the Maple Leafs out of the doggone watching from the sidelines or whatever it may be? I mean,
he's still very sad, Butch.
Well, he needs to go to a Raptor game or something there. Get him a couple of drinks at his bar, the Grapevine there, and let it go. I mean, it's just totally indignant, and sometimes some of the things that come out of his mouth on what he feels hockey should be. It's not that rah-rah, disc, boom, bah kind of thing there. In other words, if I was a parent there, I hit him in the mouth, okay? And he would would be wearing not them tight little doggone little neckties and whatnot. You might be wrapped around the neck with a totem pole or something there. But it's pathetic on how people put things down. But it's great to see that E.J. Russell, as much as I dogged that guy, and that he was very much so very accurate about the team. He smelled it. He put the firearm in there, and I'm very pleased with his doggone guess or his wanting of voting for that Carolina team. And I'm kind of patting myself on the back for sticking up for the team as well there. But that team is doing outstanding. And you know what? Their team is getting hurt by the day, okay? So who they bring up, matter of fact, the team their farm team is in the Calder Cup, I do believe. Is that
correct?
Right?
Yes.
Okay, well, they can't pull a lot of people, okay? But I just want to see how to get through this. It's refreshing to see a team that everybody kicking the teeth. just go out there and go their little merry little way and do as well as they do. I like that. St. Louis and the Dallas series, that is going to be one heck of a series from beginning to end there. I can't wait for that to go on there. I think St. Louis got a little something in the tank, and they got to show Dallas quick, fast, in a hurry, and they got to do it in Dallas there. San Jose. Mr. Joe Thornton,
Former Sioux Greyhound.
I mean, hey, he's not that old where he can't show you some tricks, and he's been showing a whole heck of a lot of tricks. The grit that young man is showing here is just outstanding there. We can keep going on and on and on with the Bruins and whatnot there, but this is a pretty good doggone hockey. I see the best of. Now, talking about the NBA, that's another subject all in general here.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I don't want to say certain things until maybe the series and the NBA Finals is over. Then we'll maybe make some discussions on some observations that I made or I'm looking at there. Because again, we've been talking about the officiating in the NBA all this season long.
They sure have.
We're wearing it out. And normally that's a subject that I'm very, very, careful about. Careful because, you get these people, we talk about the officials there, who put their lives on the line there. You don't want to say nothing too doggone bad about anybody. But now the stations there, just like they do on the football side of things, are bringing in these so-called retired officials that, the one they had, I'm speaking of basically on ESPN, they done ran him out of town so many times. It's ridiculous.
Javit?
Yeah, and he's not everyone's favorite son. I'm sorry.
No, he's not.
No, and this has been ongoing for at least 10, 15 years here. They can find someone a lot better than that. But, some of the things that we saw as far as it's been going on all season long. So how can you police that same feeling in the playoffs? You can't, okay? Harden been getting away with murder for I don't know how long with that forward coming back. How many times that he has walked, or he's, as we call it, stepped, okay? It's ridiculous, but then yet still you're complaining about the officiating there. I mean, there's some good things and bad things about what you do for something that everybody knows that you do put some stock in, and that is that step in, step out type of three-point shot that he make there. And everybody's getting hip to it, okay? And it's going to be a lot more hipness going to be to it there. I'm quite sure the officiating is going to be still messy and nasty in that particular series. And we'll look at it. And I'm quite sure we're going to be complaining about it, and we'll have some conversation with it at the end of the season. The Raptors in Philadelphia. That's going to be a great series. I expect a couple of fights in that game, especially when they get to Philadelphia there, okay?
Yes, indeed.
That is going to be a very, very rough and physical series there. I'm just so sorry to say that, the best man to come out at there, hopefully they got some, a little bit of gas in the tank. The Bucks series, okay? That, you felt sorry for Honest there, but you know what? That game was played pretty doggone well there, and it's now as the kids in Milwaukee, they're going to have to step it up a notch there and show why they were the best team in the league, which basically means absolutely nothing anymore here. You look at
exactly.
The hockey, it's now that you put up a shot up there. Again, it means absolutely nothing. So I guess there's a disappointment in that particular series, but again, it's going to be exciting to see how people respond and how those players respond there.
The series that hasn't started that I'm really excited about is out west, Portland and Denver, two teams that I just think are up and coming. That's going to be, I think, a very interesting series out there. Everybody's talking about Houston Golden State. I'm really watching that Portland-Denver one.
That's going to be a nasty series because, again, you got two teams that basically are the pinnacle of the West there. Portland as well as Denver just getting on their feet there. You got the younger players of Denver there and the inexperience of Denver versus the experience of Portland there. And it's just who's going to come out the dogfight the best. I think it's going to be a home-and-home series that basically whoever wins on the other person's court is going to end up being the champ of this particular series there. So Portland, hopefully you watch them, and they got to be on their guard because they got to steal one in Denver in order to make this particular series right. It's going to be some roughness in the play there. It's going to be some physicality in the play there. And it's the kids who don't care the least about how their body's going to be twisted up in the nut there. It's going to make the difference in that particular series there. But again, I think that's going to be the best series of all in the second round.
Butch, we got time for one more topic before we have to let you go a little early tonight. And we touched on this last week, talking about the HBO series on Real Sports, talking about the District Detroit. Now, I got to say, I didn't know a lot about maybe the details until I did some research and watched that event. It was really eye-opening for maybe those that aren't real close to the Detroit area that, go down there, talking about, the development around Little Caesars Arena, where the city of Detroit and the taxpayers paid a lot of money to the Ilitch family for the not just the arena, but also what was supposed to be 6 residential developments around the area, along with some other things. And watching the report, a lot of that development has not started. Many places either have still vacant buildings or have a lot of surface parking lots. Now, the response by the Ilitch family maybe not real favorable to that HBO special. The Ilitch family issued a statement saying our organization has 6 decades of dedication, commitment, and positive impact throughout the broader community. We are exceptionally proud of our accomplishments, including the creation of thousands of jobs around Little Caesars Arena. They saw the HBO as self-interest, sensationalized, in an accurate report designed to attract viewers instead of a balanced report on the rebirth of Detroit and our contributions to city's turnaround. That from the Ilitch family attorney. On the show, they did offer to interview the Ilitch family, but they refused. Butch, you're closer to the scene. We got about 5 minutes or so left. Did you see that report, and what were your thoughts on District Detroit and maybe what isn't happening down there?
Most definitely, I listened to the report, and the report that HBO made was extremely accurate there. You can't live on your past laurels there. The Ilitch family has done a whole heck of a lot to revitalize the city of Detroit at its beginnings there, and still are involved in it here. But again, the society of politics and whatnot comes into play there. And it's not just the Ilitch family there. It's the council people who you elect there. It's the mayor who you elect there, who are not putting the pressure on the Ilitch family to do what they promised to do. A lot of it has to do with is competition of employment, which, again, that has been a huge, huge issue there, where majority of a percentage of the employment has to come out the city of Detroit. So you got plenty of time to train individuals and whatnot there so they can be ready, and when you're ready to build and get things ready. I'll make a perfect example here. Today, and as you know, the Gordie Howe Bridge is being built in the southwest department of the part of Detroit that I know very, very well, because it's right a stone throw near Southwestern High School, where I used to go, and I graduated from there. And, the people had to move out, move their homes, get loans and whatever it may be. Some of them made sweetheart deals with the city and the developers and whatever it may be. But now we find out that certain streets are going to be closed off permanently, okay, where you can never go down those particular streets again. And now people are shuttling around and saying, hey, look, how do I get from this place and that place? Between all that building and whatnot, it's a place called Great Lakes Steel, where my father did 30 plus years of his employment until he passed away. That is bothering a whole heck of a lot of people who have to use that route in order to get to and from work and whatnot. The city has not been very balanced when it comes down to helping the trust of the city and taking their responsibility of making sure when they agree to particular deals and whatnot there, that they keep the citizen of Detroit in mind first. You're going to get your best doggone suggestions from your public there. And I'm sorry to say, but the city of Detroit is not very good. At least that political portion of it is not very good in listening to its general public.
That was definitely an eye-opening report that I saw, Butch. And again, I know we talked about that last week, but I wanted to get your take on it this week, and I do appreciate it because you are close to the scene. Butch Davis joining us on The Game. You can find his show, Butch on Sports, on this podcast page, thegamesportshow.com. You can also find him on his own podcast page, Simply Butch2. That's TOO.podomatic.com. Butch, before we let you go, any other local items that you wanted to talk about? And we want to get your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week, sir, before we let you go.
Oh man, thumbs up and thumbs down. That's
threw that at you.
Yeah, really, you threw it at me here very, very quickly here. You know, this week is going to be a whole heck of a lot of moving and grooving there. The Lions are getting set there. The Tigers will be back this weekend here, and you get to be able to talk to some players in regards to checking out some particular things here in behalf of a sports concern there. But it's going to be tight, and definitely it'll be the Lions and the Tigers that I'll be checking out the most there. Not so much some other things there, but again, the biggest story today was the progress of the Gordie Howe Bridge there, and they're getting that together because in 4 more years, or close to 4 more years, they'll have another entrance and exit to get around, and then including the freeways as well there, who are being involved in that particular put up or shut up type of situation where now they got to make all kind of adjustments there. So again, people are kind of really getting hooked up on now going through some more adjustments, being that the expressway out here was closed for so many, and you witnessed that yourself when you made a visit here in Detroit a couple of years ago here, being closed and whatnot. Now you got to go through the same thing all over again. So it's going to be a close weekend, keeping your ears open here and find out, and holding people accountable of making sure that the public comes first there. You said, I gotta say the NBA officials, that's a very much so thumbs down. And the administration, how they're gonna solve that where people can digest watching basketball the way it should be, the pureness of it. There's no more pureness in it. That's a big fat joke. My thumbs up is Popovich of the Spurs. Although they got dumped in the series there, you can't do nothing but admire how he's taken a team that has been thoroughly shut down and had to be rebuilt, and how his attitude was in dealing with the press and whatnot here. He's not been a smart rear end. There's been some reports has not been too cool at all, but again, this guy kept professionalism in mind there, and he held his head up high, didn't degrade his team. He gave responsibility and thanks to the other team that basically beat him, but again, he did it professionally there, and hopefully he can come back for a 24th season there, and they give him the attaboy that he actually deserved, because it's got to be coming close for the guy retiring and whatnot there. But again, you got to give him a thumbs up on how he kept himself in a positive frame of mind throughout this season here.
Good stuff as always from Butch Davis. Butch, thanks for joining us. We're off next week, and you will be back on our Wicked Sister edition of The Game on Monday, May 13th. So have a good couple weeks, and we'll talk to you when it's hopefully warmer weather, barbecue, sunshine, and, hot temperatures. What do you say?
Yeah. There's so much for the hot temperatures here, buddy. But, we got to have something a lot better than what we're going through here.
Yes, indeed. Butch, thanks for joining us, and have a good rest of your night, my friend.
Great for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll be back with our roundtable with E.J. Russell and Dave McKeag on the game here on Eagle 95.1, online at thegamesportshow.com.
Get wicked at Wicked Sister. You'll find the best tasting food for you and your family. Start off with some wicked appetizers like the crab dip, served with soft pretzel bites and warm non-bread strips, and delicious boneless chicken wings that are antibiotic and hormone-free with 5 choices of sauces. Try the barbecue pulled pork sandwich or the #1 selling drunken cow burger and the chicken caprese flatbread. Check out the Wicked Sister gluten-free menu and catering. The Wicked Sister, downtown Ashman Street, 7 days a week.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank a list of additional sponsors. North Shore Sports and Auto, new location located on 647 McDonald Avenue, Sault Ste. Marie. A family-owned and operated business with doing business in Sault Ste. Marie for over 10 years. Loads of products available for your enjoyment for all seasons. North Shore Sports and Auto, we understand the importance of quality service and products, and we work hard to ensure that all customers have a positive experience before and after each and every sale. North Shore Sports and Auto, meeting all of your new and pre-owned equipment needs. Special thanks to Salon. The Salon, located on 589 2nd Line East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Mike Cuglietta. Book your appointment today at 705-941-9191 or via online at https://thesalonsue.as.me-. The Salon, making the Sioux beautiful, one haircut at a time. As well as a shout out to the Superior Pro Shop. The Superior Pro Shop, located inside the Community First Credit Union Superior Arena on 285 Northern Avenue East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Jeremy Paquin and ran by Larry Monroe. Superior Pro Shop, for over 40 years, meet all of your skate sharpening, skate repair, and hockey needs. Also to Discover the Canvas. Discover the Canvas, located on 317 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. A beautiful new renovated building owned and operated by expert artist and Sioux native Katrina Thibodeau. Katrina taking her talents of the ink in Sault Ste. Marie and truly creating the best and most realistic art locally. Call Katrina today at 705-450-8099 or email her at discoverthecanvas@gmail.com to book your tattoo or consultation today.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1, also heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Want to thank our last guest, Butch Davis, for joining us. Butch, usually part of our roundtable here in hour 2, but he had another commitment that he had to get to. We're joined once again by Dave McKeag, host of the Game Sports Show in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. We are now joined by, live from Moe's Pub in Escanaba, Michigan, E.J. Russell joining us. E.J., it's warmer there than it is here. How you doing tonight? How's Moe's Pub?
Well, I don't know if it's any warmer here. It's kind of a nasty, rainy, cold day out. But Moe's Pub is good. Quieter night tonight. Unfortunately, bingo night has been canceled. Had a few of the hosts and backups had to bail. But we got people here enjoying all the local beers on tap, as well as some great American draft products, locals walking in, sports on all the TVs. So things are good and ready to participate in the show. Lots to talk about.
Yes, indeed, lots to talk about, and we're joined once again by Dave McKeag. Dave, did you calm down a little bit from that Maple Leaf segment? How you feeling? Feel a little more confident and a little more positive?
You know what, Scotty? You did give me encouraging words, absolutely, my friend. But I think I've been venting since the previous show last week from Northern, so I still a little sour, I think. But I'll eventually move on, and by the time puck drop comes in the preseason, I'll probably forget all about it and be an optimistic Leaf fan again.
EJ, Dave caught the flu over the weekend. I blame Drake for that.
Well, yeah, the bottle flu will get you, especially when you have to cry yourself to sleep after a disappointing Game 7 loss.
As a Lions fan, I should be an alcoholic. Let's get to our
I get it. I get it.
Since you are the newest contributor, we will give you first crack on the roundtable. Dave, we'll give you a first crack at the answer, I should say. So, E.J. Russell from Moe's Pub in Escanaba. I think I know what's on your mind, but let's say you.
Well, As much as I really want to talk about the NFL draft, and I hope that we get a chance to discuss it, I actually want to talk NBA basketball here.
Yes.
And the game in particular that I would like to speak about is yesterday afternoon's Golden State Warriors versus Houston Rockets game. And there were some questionable moments, some contact with officials and some contact that may have occurred that maybe wasn't called between players. And really, I think it was a game that brought to light some questions that we have about NBA basketball, now whether that be flopping or officiating. I think there's some takeaways from that game. I'm curious if you guys did watch it, about your take on the Milwaukee Bucks versus Boston Celtics series as well. But for the most part, I really want to try to focus on the Golden State Houston series, what your opinions are there, and then just general NBA playoff talk.
Dave, real quick before we get to your comments, this is something we've been talking about on this show for a while as far as officiating in general. And this came out this afternoon talking about that Golden State-Houston matchup. The NBA reviewed some of the calls. Apparently, the referees got the 2 no calls in the final seconds correct. However, there were 3 calls that were deemed incorrect, and they all went against the Houston Rockets. And probably the biggest one was against Steph Curry. Big surprise there, as he should have fouled out with 1:10 left, according to the NBA, but he didn't get called on the foul, stayed in the game, hit the crucial 3-pointer with 24 seconds left, and the rest is history. And the Warriors, I'll talk more about that when I respond, but they've been frustrated with officiating over the Warriors over the last couple seasons. Of course, Game 7 last year, a leaked detailed report on the litany of missed calls that Houston claims cost them that game. So just a little background there before we get to your comments, Dave, but officials definitely were the focal point in that Golden State-Houston game. Your thoughts on EJ's topic, Mr. McKay?
Again, with officials, and we've discussed this in different lengths with the NBA, with hockey, with football, obviously notably this year with the Rams and New Orleans Saints. When it comes to refereeing, okay, it's EJ 100% right. When very good topic to bring up, actually. As always, definitely not surprised by you bringing up a good topic, especially now that I hear you sell cars. You're very good at that. Must throw that little tidbit out there. And back to my point.
Somebody's got to do it.
I really think the referees are becoming a very watched position, more so in sports than ever. And I would say in the NBA, the amount of flopping that goes on, the only sport that's worse might be soccer. And no offense, Sky, I know you're a soccer fan. Okay, I really think that when it comes to soccer and you see someone tap their shoulder, they're falling on because they hurt their ankle. They think, it's kind of, but that's not about the refereeing though. That's on the players. The refereeing in basketball, though, it seems like when I watch a lot of the side play, I'm a very big fan of watching the side play. As I mentioned earlier about Kawhi Leonard tapping Kyle Lowry when he was actually yelling at the referee about a foul call, telling him to cut it out. When I watch a lot of the sideline stuff with the referees, they're watching the ball. It's basically like everybody's watching the ball. One time I freeze the screen, the referees were purely watching the play, and behind the play there's a little bit of pushing, shoving going on. Not that it's not allowed without the ball or anything. It's like when you have a referee and you have 3 refs, 2 refs, it doesn't matter. You have to have full attention to the game and what's going on behind the scenes, especially when it comes to hockey and especially when it comes to football, right? Those are the 2 sports that come to mind with that. But since the topic we're discussing here is basketball, the referee thing has become a very hot topic in sports, and I think a lot of the sports associations have to come together with a plan on how to maybe come up with a plan to prevent this and really repair this without trying to pull away from the momentum of a game. Because there's nothing worse than being in the middle of a game with 1:30 left, and let's say there's a non-call and you want to challenge it, but your team has the momentum. As you do a timeout or you take a challenge, which takes a minute 45, maybe 5:45 or 10:45, depends what you're doing, you can really suck the momentum of that last minute. What if you didn't take that last minute to challenge the game? Maybe you would have got that shot at 3 to tie the game, or maybe you would have got that point shot to get the win, or maybe you would have got that touchdown at the end. Maybe if you would have kept the momentum going. There's a lot of fine gray areas that people that don't really think about that. Okay, we got to add this. Okay, the referees, they got to change this. Okay, they changed this, but it jeopardizes another thing in the game that can really take away from the fan side of it, which the fans are important to the sport, because without the fans, we wouldn't have the sport there to begin with. So I'm very kind of torn in terms of the referees and how they can repair this, because in the NBA, as I mentioned, that it's almost as bad as soccer, maybe not even as close, but they're behind soccer in the retrospect of the flopping and the calls, like, oh, what's going on? You're looking at the refs when there's a non-call and one of the plays going back, but the refs do have to pay attention to detail, because the refs, if they're not paying attention, it can really a game can get carried away and get out of hand. And then when you get out of hand, that means you don't have the control of it as a referee, and you're starting to make calls for the sake of making calls because you want to save your job, first off, and secondly because you just need to make a call because you're worried about that fan sitting in section 5 is going to gun you down at the end of the game. So I really think, EJ, that in basketball, they do have to better monitor the overall refereeing, officiating, especially these big games. You're in the playoffs here. Okay, you talk about playoffs. Okay, the guy on the press conference, playoffs? You talk about playoffs? Yeah, we're in the playoffs right now. And we got to have refs that are going to be paying attention and call players out on their BS, I must say. Sorry, BS on their shenanigans that they have in the game. Especially LeBron is famous for that, for complaining to the referees. I must say, I love LeBron, but he's big for that. Kyle Lowry is big for that. Curry, obviously, no surprise, he didn't get fouled. The referees and fans and NBA in general love him. But when the league comes out and says sorry for a thing, like they did in basketball and like they did for that Las Vegas Golden Knights 5-minute major, when the league comes out and says sorry on a certain ref's behalf or anything of such, that's an issue. Okay, we've seen it more this year than any other year in sports. And I want to use all the sports as much as an example because it seems to be a big issue and it's not getting changed and it seems like it's not getting addressed. I think in football it did by adding that extra replay at the end. But again, you're taking that risk of sucking the momentum out of that game or that team that has momentum going. So it's a very hard area to address. You just need to have refs that really do their homework, that are focused on their job. Maybe add an additional ref to the sideline. Maybe add another additional ref period at all to be watching those backgrounds during the games or to be able to make that call. Or you know what? Maybe the call on the court is not what it should be. There's the ref on the sideline that blows the buzzer and says, that's a call, nothing else. That's the head ref. He makes the call at the end if he needs to overturn. And if there's an overturn, the ref can, maybe the coach can challenge if you want to get as complex at that. But I went on different avenues with that, EJ, and then Scotty, because the referees is such a gray area, and it's so hard to change things because you risk substituting one other side of the game that makes it exciting, but the refs really have to get their act together because this has been the worst year of referees, in my opinion. Celtics, Bucks, as you said, quick, we talked about in our first discussion there, Scotty. Great series, and I think the Celtics are going to beat the Bucks. I really think they're going to. I like what the Celtics are doing, and they're playing some good basketball. They've been there before, these Celtics. A lot of the Bucks haven't. Experience usually does triumph. Ask the Boston Bruins over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Raptors, when it comes to playing the 76ers, they're looking fantastic. Overall NBA playoffs, everything is shaping out, dare I say, as everyone predicted at this current point. But hopefully in the second round, outside of the Raptors, obviously, that there's some upsets, a.k.a. Celtics. I like to see some of these upset teams go on and move forward. I'm a big fan of what the NBA playoffs has been. Some good high-scoring, intense games. Portland winning the last 3 seconds in the first round. Love that kind of stuff. Overall, NBA, great job on the playoffs. Got to keep an eye. The refs have to be more attention, though, out there to all of this sideline shenanigans. And also with players that should have been fouled out where there should have been a call, you got to make those calls in these big games, especially in basketball.
Yeah, Dave, Butch and I touched on this a little bit more, Butch, than myself. I'll start with the series and then get to the officiating. The series I'm really watching of the 4 is the Denver-Portland series.
Yes.
Maybe one that's probably going to get the least amount of attention being out west, but two teams that I'm real interested in. A Portland team, how about Lillard and that shot to clinch that series? Was that clutch or what? That was one of the best game-ending shots you will ever see, and then the wave goodbye. I mean, hey, you know what? You can be cocky when you're hitting shots like that, and that was a fun one to see. Denver, a team that was taken to the limit against San Antonio, still trying to figure out why San Antonio didn't foul at the end, although they probably still would have lost. So that series getting a lot of my attention. Of course, Golden State, Houston, that's the marquee series, which we'll be talking about probably more than any, at least as far as the media. And then the East, Boston, Milwaukee. You know, that Boston team has some veterans. They have players that's been there, and you know, Milwaukee has a lot of guys that haven't. And I would not be shocked if Boston wins that series. They obviously got off the schneid winning on the road in Game 1. I would not be surprised if the Celtics do win that. I think Philadelphia is outmatched by Toronto, a team that seems to be getting better. Kawhi Leonard pouring in 45 points and crew, and so yeah, the second round definitely better than the first round, which wasn't really hard for the NBA to do. Now, getting to the officiating, and again, we've been talking about this on this show for a while, not just this past weekend like a lot of the media outlets have. We've been talking about this one for a while, and boy, you've seen a lot of missed calls and big ones in the sports. Dave, you mentioned the San Jose Vegas series, the hit on Pavelski, which, you know, if he wouldn't have landed the way he would, may have not been called. It wasn't initially called, but that totally changed that series and really cost Las Vegas a shot at the title. I'm not saying that was the reason, but that certainly didn't help Vegas's cause, and that was a blown call. I believe those officials weren't reffing this round. I don't know if they aren't reffing any of the other rounds, but again, that's something that, you know, needs to be addressed. We saw in the NFL last year, of course, the missed call there in the Rams-Saints game that literally cost the Saints a call. And specifically getting to this Golden State-Houston series, as I mentioned before Dave had his comments, the NBA deemed that 3 calls were incorrect, 2 of them involving Steph Curry. Surprise, surprise, the NBA wants him out there because he's the can't-miss shucking and jiving guy out there. I can't stand him. He might be my least favorite player in the NBA. I know that a lot of people are shocked by saying that. I don't like the guy. I don't like the way he plays. Respect his game, mind you, but you know, those sort of things we're seeing it too much in the NBA. Now, that being said, being an official myself, I'm not officiating this year, but doing some high school baseball and softball, you know, that's easy compared to a lot of the officiating. And I go to basketball, covering high school sports locally. By far and away the toughest sport to officiate and the most pressure these guys are under. You have so many split-second judgment calls, block charge, this and that, and it's tough for these officials. But when you get to the NBA level and, you know, we're in the conference semifinals, there has to be accountability when officials are missing so many calls. And that's something that the Houston Rockets have been saying now for a couple years. As I mentioned, there was a leaked report out this weekend talking about the Houston Rockets and what they did, and they filed a complaint to the league, net result of 81 potential missed calls and non-calls in Game 7 between Houston and Golden State last year. The Rockets never sent the memo to the NBA, but they ended up communicating the messages, which included that they believe officiating cost them the 2018 title during in-person meetings with league officials. They did present the league with their analysis of Game 7. This was detailed, as I mentioned, this weekend. This report claims was obtained by ESPN. A total of 81 calls cost Houston 18.6 points in that game. Again, it's really hard to assess how calls, you know, impact games, but, you know, there were a lot of calls in that game that were maybe missed. And I like this, and I'll end with this, talking about what Houston thought maybe the NBA should do as far as trying to correct some of these, what they claim are injustices. They recommended adding a 4th on-court referee. And I like this one, and I think this one really needs to be looked at, not just by the NBA, but other sports, talking about when they make officiating reports on these sort of games, like we saw in Game 1 where the NBA admitted there were 3 big calls that were missed. How about make every game officiating reports available to every team for every game? Because, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know of any professional referees, umpires that, have been replaced. I mean, maybe I'm missing something due to poor performance. I mean, you look at really any aspect of life other than government workers where, productivity and how you do your job affects if you have your job, again, except the Washington Beltway, but I digress, drain the swamp. But talking about officiating, these things need to be looked at, and I really like the idea of having these games reviewed and then having the teams see these reports and, maybe make a rating system of officials. If you got the same guys that are blowing 5-6 calls a game, then these guys should not be in the postseason. They shouldn't be reffing big games. And so that's really one thing that I liked out of reading that report, that I think and it's not just in the NBA, but it's in all sports that, hey, referees are human. They're going to miss calls. We are human. We're going to make screw ups. I mean, we're going to stutter on words. I do that every probably fifth or sixth sentence, but there needs to be some accountability to those officials maybe that are missing these calls. And I'm not saying fire them all, but you know what? There needs to be somewhere that is said that these folks, if you're doing this so often, you're not going to be in the big game. So that's my take on it. EJ, I know you got a lot to say, so the floor is yours.
Oh,
sir.
yeah. Well, you guys really dove into the officiating there, and I was hoping to get a little more serious chat, but that's okay. The officiating was kind of the big highlight of those games, but and I did ask for that, so I don't have a lot of issues with the way that game was really called. I mean, Scotty, I agree with you. You're going to miss miss calls, and it's a human error element to the game that will always exist. I don't believe, though, that adding a fourth official to the NBA can help with the way that they call the fouls. I mean, you have the two refs on the sidelines and the one on the baseline. So where is adding that fourth official going to help the NBA make these calls without interfering in the game? I just don't know. I mean, what are you going to do? Put a guy on the two corners and then two guys up top? I just don't see that that's going to be a good way for the NBA to improve the officiating. I do agree with you, Scott. I think that they should have reports, the officiating of every game. I think that the NBA officials probably miss more calls than any other sport. And I'm not talking, and I want to disclude holding in football, right? If you look at any play in the NFL, there's holding in every play. We all know that. But I just don't see how adding that fourth official is going to help. I do think that they should release the reports every game. But I think that the NBA should look into maybe adding a penalty or foul for flopping. The NHL did that, introducing the diving penalty, and you've seen those kind of things go down, and players aren't risking themselves as much. I think that there should be a foul for a flop. Maybe I'll use James Harden as the example because there were about 3 or 4, and I'm putting air quotes on this, missed calls against him for quote-unquote fouls, whatever you want to say that is. Maybe disincentivize flopping. If you flop and the referee calls a flop and you make the bucket not count. I think that would be a great way to disincentivize that flopping and create a more pure game. And I think that might add another little bit of aggression to the game. Get more towards that 80s, 90s style of basketball where it was super physical. And many guys in today's game may struggle with the way that they play. Physically, I think they could handle it. But that gameplay, and I'll use the Bad Boys Pistons as an example, there aren't many teams that can handle that. And when you got fouled by them, trust me, you knew it. You know, guys like Lambeer and the big, tall guys in the lane there, I mean, they knocked you on your rear end, and they made you regret coming down the lane. I think if the NBA, finds a way to disincentivize flopping, I think that would be something worth looking into there. But I think in regards to the Rockets-Warriors series, as far as gameplay goes, here's going to be your major question mark there. And that's that I think Golden State is a better team defensively than the Houston Rockets. I think that they have the best player or second best player in the NBA in Kevin Durant. a guy that if he would have scored 40 or 45 points in that last game, would have been the second player ever to score 40 or 45 points in 3 consecutive playoff games. The only other person ever did, I believe, is Michael Jordan. I think that they're good enough defensively with guys like Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, that they're going to end up coming out on top. The key for the Houston Rockets is finding ways to continue to keep James Harden productive. However, they have found ways to win when he isn't playing well. So I'll take the Warriors there, but I'll take that in about a 6-7 game series, just because I do believe, and I think it's widely known, that they probably have the best starting lineup in the NBA. Look at the Bucks-Celtics series, though. I think a lot of people are surprised to see that Boston came out and kind of put a whoop down on the Milwaukee Bucks in their own house. And I think what they showed here, and a lot of people, if you would have asked them, had the Milwaukee Bucks as a favorite to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, if not come out on top of the Eastern Conference. But I think that Boston played a great game defensively. And the one thing that they did well is they put Al Horford on Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I think by putting a crafty veteran, a guy like Al Horford, who's fantastic defensively, against the Greek Freak, really showed that when you shut him down, that team is going to struggle. They don't have a ton of other weapons. Do they have weapons? Of course. But Giannis Antetokounmpo and the way that he plays the game of basketball is the centerpiece of that offense. And I think that Boston proved if you shut him down, that they're going to struggle throughout the rest of the series. I think the 76ers Raptors series is very exciting. I think the 76ers probably have the second best starting lineup in the NBA right now. Maybe Boston Celtics, but I really do believe that they have the second best starting lineup in the NBA. But one of their best players, Ben Simmons, has got to get matched up defensively. And I think a great guy to put on him is Kawhi Leonard. This is a guy that's been a defensive MVP. He's got a ring, excuse me, and a finals MVP. So this is a guy that can help Toronto in Kawhi Leonard, show them the way to have success in the playoffs, use his experiences and his defensive prowess to improve that team. I think Toronto wins that series in 5 games. I just don't think that the Philadelphia 76ers have enough maturity or talent. There you go, Dave. I don't think they have enough talent to overcome what Kawhi and that Raptors lineup can bring to the table. I see Toronto winning that in about 5 games. But the one person in series that I want to make sure that we address is the Portland-Denver series, and I want to talk about Damian Lillard for a second. The fact that he hit that shot to win that series is unbelievable, and he is probably the most underrated player in the NBA. Yep. Now, many of us would agree that he's an elite player, but I don't think that people understand truly how good he really is. And I want to use this to prove my point. In the history of the NBA, there are 6 game-winning, series-winning shots in the history of NBA, and I want to go over these with you, okay?
Wow.
1986 Western Conference Finals. Ralph Sampson turnaround jumper wins Game 5 against the Los Angeles Lakers for the Houston Rockets, okay? That's 1. 2 is the 89 Eastern Conference Finals. Michael Jordan has 2 buzzer beaters, and I believe they're both against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I'm going to read my notes here. Jordan hits that turnaround jumper in Game 5 in the 89 Eastern Conference first round, to beat the Cavaliers.
Coliseum.
Yep. That was the push off, if you ask any Cleveland fan, against Craig Elo. And then in the 93 Eastern Conference semifinals, Bulls also beat the Cavs. Jordan hits another jumper in that Game 4 to steal the series. In 97, Jazz Rockets Western Conference Final, John Stockton nails a three-pointer to clinch Game 6 and win the series for them. The other guy, the only other person in the history of the NBA to have 2 series-winning shots are Damian Lillard. And most people remember the Rockets-Blazers series where Damian Lillard hit that clutch three-pointer in Game 6 of the 2014 Western Conference first-round series to send them into the next round. And that was a huge shot. And most people remember that being one of the greatest reactions from a fan base in that. And then again in this year, 2019 Western Conference, first round, beats the Thunder against a defender like Paul George, who is a good defender, and hits, a 37-foot shot to win the basketball game. There are only 2 guys on the planet that can hit that shot and that's a good shot for. Number 1 is Stephen Curry. He can hit a shot from anywhere on the floor. But the only other person in the world that's a good shot is Damian Lillard, and he's probably the most underrated clutch performer in the NBA, if not one of the most underrated elite performers in the NBA. And that's something that needs to be taken account here. This is a guy that is tied with Michael Jordan, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, widely considered the greatest basketball player of all time. He's tied with Michael Jordan for the most game-winning, series-winning shots in NBA history, and there's only ever been 6 of them. People need to be paying attention to the Portland Trail Blazers because the way that they're playing basketball right now and the amount of talent they have on that team, they have guys like Enes Kanter that has some experience in this league that can continue to play, CJ McCollum. I get that they're going up against the Joker and Nikola Jokic, or if I'm saying his name correctly. And Denver's been a good team this year, but the Portland Trail Blazers are my surprise team in this playoffs, and they're a team that I've been watching, and I've said that on this show. Butch has been with me on that, and I believe you guys are starting to believe in it. But Damian Lillard is doing things that we've only ever seen in this league from one other player, and that's Michael Jordan. Watch out for the Portland Trail Blazers. Look for them to win that series. I'll say in 5 or 6 games, they're going to go against a Golden State Warriors team who's going to have a very difficult job getting out of this next series because Houston Rockets have a ton of talent on that team and know how to win games when they're star players and having success. Watch out for Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard is my player to watch in these NBA playoffs.
Great stuff, gentlemen. Let's continue the roundtable. We'll go to you, Mr. McKeag. I will get first crack at your topic, and then EJ from Moe's Pub. So, Dave McKeag, what is on your mind in the world of sports?
We've already talked about it, Scott, a little bit, but we talked about it in the Toronto Maple Leafs fashion with hockey. We got to go NHL playoffs here, okay? The bunch of jerks are up 2-0 on the New York Islanders. Got to love that. You got the Columbus Blue Jackets getting up in double OT, going back to Columbus, Ohio, and the state where EJ's from. Yep. And then you got the San Jose Sharks and the Colorado Avalanche going to the Pavilion. Then you got the Dallas Stars and St. Louis Blues, another series that's tied at 1, going back to Texas. You know, this second round here is full of teams that people didn't predict would make it. Okay, and if anybody tells me that this was everyone's second round that they picked, I'd be like, you're crazy. You're crazy because I need to see the proof. And we've talked about a little bit previously last week. We talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs were against the Boston Bruins last week, and now full blame is on Babcock, and the Maple Leafs Nation is absolutely shaken up right now. It's a very touchy subject. But you have the second round that are going on right now. We know every Leaf fan in the world is going for the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's no secret. And I've said myself I would love a San Jose Shark Columbus Blue Jackets Stanley Cup final. I think that would be just absolutely epic. I really think that'd be perfect for the National Hockey League. But I want to go around the horn and talk about the National Hockey League playoffs in the second round. And hey, if you want to jump into any other news and updates in the National Hockey League that you've heard that may have been on your mind as of late.
Yeah, Dave, I'll start. I've been watching the NHL a lot more than the NBA, although the NBA has piqued my interest in this round just because the first round was, well, rather boring. You know, it took a little bit for the second round to get going. It seems to always do that with the NHL, especially because the first round, I mean, it's just there's 8 series and, you know, you have 3 game 7s and you have upsets and then boom, I mean, there's no break. The second round starts and you know, it takes a little while, but, you know, these series – maybe outside the Carolina Islanders one. I wouldn't count out the Islanders by any stretch. I mean, heck, crazier things have happened. But these series, I think, all have a good chance to go 6 or 7 games. I mean, you start with the game that is going on tonight, St. Louis and Dallas, 2 teams that maybe weren't expected to be there. I know Dallas wasn't expected to be there, and they got a big road win in Game 2 by the score of 4-2. Ben Bishop looking good in net for the Dallas Stars, and I don't think they've lost at home yet. I think they won all their home games against National. I think they lost one, but that's a tough place to play, and Dallas is a team that's been there. And one of the things I like about most of these teams is they're they haven't been there, at least recently. I mean, Dallas hasn't been there since, I believe, the late 90s when they won St. Louis. They've never won a Stanley Cup. You look at the other series out west, Colorado, they haven't been there in a while since late 90s, early 2000s. San Jose, they've never won a cup. Colorado gets a big 4-3 win at San Jose, a team that I touted a lot this year as far as the Colorado Avalanche. I thought they maybe were still a year away. I didn't expect them to make a deep playoff run, knocking off Calgary, but that's been a good series there. Then you look at the East, and EJ Butch Davis in our previous segment was giving you all sorts of love for the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that at the 1st of January had the 4th worst record in all the land. And then they got Don Cherry's attention. Then they started celebrating. Then they were playing duck hunt with the scoreboard, and boom, these jerks are now 2 games away. And jerks being Don Cherry's term for Carolina. They're on one episode of Coach's Corner. They're 2 games away from making it to the Eastern Finals. Just another nice story there, coached by Rob Brind'Amour, a guy that's won a Stanley Cup with Carolina about a dozen years ago, the guy that played at Michigan State, won a national championship there. I like Brind'Amour. Didn't really like Brind'Amour and maybe some of the whining there in the previous series where Ovechkin knocked out the young Russian guy, and there's a lot of people saying that he shouldn't have done that. Well, it's a hockey fight, people. I mean, what do you want him to do, hold his hand and sing Kumbaya? I mean, give me a break. But the series that I'm really liking, Columbus and Boston, Bobrovsky in that game 2 really stole the show. Columbus would not be going back home 1-1 without him. They get that double overtime victory. Columbus hasn't been there. Obviously, Boston, they're a team that has been. So I just think it's nice that they have a lot of these teams that haven't been to this stage in a long time, if ever. I know the ratings, as far as maybe CBC and NBC not having the Rangers, the Blackhawks, the Kings, or a Canadian team, but you know what? They're getting huge ratings in Columbus. I think they set record ratings for Game 2, and it's fun seeing these communities that support these teams like Carolina. Raleigh, North Carolina supports that team, and you look at the home games, there's a team that hasn't lost at home, Carolina, and they go back up 2-0. So the NHL playoffs has been as good at this point in the first round. Are we going to see some more multi-overtime games, some Game 7, some surprises probably? And you know what? I love it, and I got to give a lot of kudos. We're fortunate enough here on the border that we can watch CBC. However, I don't have the HD CBC, so I don't usually watch that. Been watching a lot of NBC and their coverage, and I got to say, outside of the guy between the boards with the bald head that has man crushes on 90% of these people and doesn't watch the puck, you know who I'm talking about there. They do a great job with their coverage, their intermission reports, and their play-by-play guys and girls on that network. So kudos to NBC. They do a great job covering the NHL. This is a league that at one point not many people wanted even to cover. And now we're seeing that, well, it's worth it because they do a great job at NBC. But it helps when you have really great hockey as well. We're to EJ for his thoughts on Dave's topic.
Well, to me, the story of these playoffs are, like Dave said, teams that don't belong. Columbus Blue Jackets, Colorado Avalanche, Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, these are teams that you did not. I mean, even the New York Islanders after losing to Vegas.
Colorado Avalanche.
Did I say Colorado? I meant to say Colorado.
Yeah, you were going to. I think I took your thunder there. I just felt like jumping in because your voice is beautiful. I want to keep you talking.
Oh, wow. Thanks, buddy. Well, you sound a lot like that guy between the boards with the bald head right now. But anyway.
Yikes.
But I think what's making these NHL playoffs exciting are these underachieving teams continuing to have success. I think, Dave, you hit it on the head. I don't think any of us had this even remotely close to being the second round. But to me, I mean, look at the Columbus Blue Jackets and Carolina Hurricanes. Those are the 2 teams to me. I mean, even I'll throw Colorado in there too. These are 3 teams that don't care if they lose in the playoffs. I mean, yes, the players want to win, but what do they have to lose? They all went up against some of the best teams in the league to make it to this point, and they won. Carolina won. Columbus won, beating the best team in the NHL this year. Colorado Avalanche beat the best team in the Western Conference to get to this point. Even beating great goaltenders to get to this point. These are teams that have nothing to lose. And when you go into a hockey game having expectations, that's when things become dangerous. As a hockey player, Dave and Scott covering the game, I know you guys know this. The most dangerous thing in hockey is a 2-goal lead. Why? Because you get overly confident, right? If you got a 2-goal lead and the next team scores the goal, they're coming back. If you have a 2-0 lead and you score, you're pulling away. A 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in hockey. And the reason that I'm using that as my reference here is because you get overly confident. And these teams are teams that are playing, and I'm talking specifically about Columbus, Carolina, and Colorado, that are playing with no fear. They're playing with no expectations. All they're doing is going and playing as hard as they can every night and trying to beat their opponent that day. And I think in the NHL, when you're able to have that kind of focus and intensity, one game at a time, that you become more dangerous than a team with expectations. The Blue Star series doesn't interest me because these are two teams that I think thought that they were going to be here at this point. But there's absolutely no way that any of these teams in this playoffs are playing with more confidence than these three teams right now. These are guys that came out and tagged the best teams in the league, one of them beating a team that tied the Red Wings for the most wins in NHL history in the Columbus Blue Jackets. You got the Carolina Hurricanes beating the defending Stanley Cup champions, and then Colorado beating the best team in the Western Conference. I mean, the fact that they're here right now, you're playing with an emotion, you're playing on a high, and you've got the momentum at the right time that can carry you through to this Stanley Cup final. And I don't know who you want to take right now. I don't know which of those three teams I'd want to play. Carolina's got an incredible swagger right now, and those jerks are playing some great hockey, and they're up 2-0 in a series and are 2 games away from their conference finals in a conference where they might come out and have to face either the mighty Boston Bruins, who are tied right now with Columbus 1-1 in that series, or they got to play the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that's got nothing to lose. I mean, this is going to be the Eastern Conference is probably the most exciting thing going on in playoffs right now in any sport, because you just have a bunch of guys out there that aren't afraid to lose. And when that happens and you got guys, I'll talk about Carolina with their celebrations. They're playing with swagger. I mean, these guys have nothing to lose. Besides Sebastian Aho, can anybody name 3 other players on that team? I can't. I'm sure, Dave, you can.
I can.
Of course you can. But you cover the sport more. The average fan probably can't name 3 players on the Carolina Hurricanes. The average fan can't name 3 players on the Columbus Blue Jackets. The average fan can't name 3 players on Colorado Avalanche. And the fact that you can't name them, and the fact that they're so, and I'm a big fan of air quotes tonight, undervalued teams, they're going to come out and they're going to tag you if you're not paying attention. And I think that the series that intrigues me the most, and without taking any bias into my own opinions and fanhood here, I do believe that the series that I'm most interested in, I'll even give you the 2 of the Blue Jackets Bruins and the Sharks Avalanche. You got 2 teams against 2 other teams that, on one hand in each series, you got a team that really doesn't belong here, and another team that's expectations are so high that if they don't come home with the ring, that season's a failure. So who do you want to take in this? I'll tell you what, I'll take the underdog all day. I'll pick Columbus to win their series. I'll pick Colorado to win their series, and I'll pick the Canes to win their series. I really couldn't care less what happens with Blues and Stars, but I'll take the underdog in the other 3.
I did the same thing on Paul Van Wagner's show last week. EJ, you must have been listening to that at thegamesportshow.com. Very good, very good. Dave McKeag, your thoughts on your topic. We'll have to do a brief NFL draft recap coming up. So your thoughts, sir.
Yes, EJ, very good points. I do agree the two-goal lead in hockey is definitely one of the worst leagues in hockey, but I will bring out one point. If you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, the 3-goal lead is actually the worst league in hockey, okay? That's what I got to say. 2013, 2015. I'll say right now it was from 2013, after a 2013 game against Boston, we are the team to blow the most 3-goal leads in the National Hockey League, and it's not by 1, it's not by 2, it's not by 3. I won't continue that. We have blown 3-goal leads over a dozen times since then. So that is one thing I'll say. If you're a Leaf fan, if you're up 3-1, you may as well sit in your seat and get ready to dig your grave because you're about to be disappointed. But you are right about the 2-goal lead in hockey. Absolutely. I just got to say, as a Leaf fan, definitely not if it's a 3-goal lead. But in the playoffs, because that's what we're talking about right now, you have a bunch of teams, EJ.
Let me clarify something for a minute, Dave. Yes, 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in hockey. But the reason that I'm choosing to illustrate that point is this is a sport where if you get overconfident too quickly, you're going to come out and lose a game. And that was my point there.
Oh, 150%. You know, that happens in men's league, any kind of league. You just get overconfident. You decide to sit a back seat, and then you end up just losing the hockey game because you get overconfident or you make defensive lapses and you pull off a bunch of Jake Gardner plays in your own zone and it ruins your game. So I definitely agree with that for sure. But the overall in the playoffs, okay, you have for some reason, I love this Carolina team, but you guys may disagree. I just don't want to see them win because they've won in 2006, okay?
The Whalers.
He's just mad because they beat the Edmonton Oilers, who are Canadian.
See, that's one thing, but also because they've won in the recent era. I just need to see a team that hasn't won. If the Boston Bruins win the Cup, I've already said I might jump out my glass window of my apartment building. Okay, I'm not even kidding. I'm sorry, that's not a joke, but
root for Columbus. Intervention, Dave.
We'll have to do an intervention for sure because I'm a Leaf fan. If they make the Cup Finals and win, then you got all these other Leaf fans that are thinking that we would have won. Then I got to listen to that social media nonsense and all the questions. I just can't handle it. I just need Columbus and San Jose to get there. Two teams that haven't won and two teams that fans would love to make it, even though everyone loves the bunch of jerks right now, though, and I'm on board with the bunch of jerks slogan. I love it. I think it's awesome. But please, I need somebody else, who can actually – please, who hasn't won yet for my own sanity, and I mean just the Boston Bruins. But anyways, all jokes aside, in terms of having a sports show here, you have a second round right now that fans couldn't have asked for, but in such a good way. Okay, the only team that is missing in the second round is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, then it would be the perfect second round where a bunch of people did not pick any teams because let's get real, a lot of teams that are here were not picked. Yes, the Islanders were favorites against the Penguins. People may argue that they were favorites. No, absolutely not. If you're going to tell me that you thought the Islanders were going to beat Sidney Crosby and the Penguins by a landslide, I disagree. If someone said they'd win in 7, I might agree. 6, maybe. But to sweep them? Absolutely not. So, a bunch of teams that are here right now are here because they had nothing to lose, like EJ said. And you hit it on the nail, my friend. I'm glad that you sat in the cafe at the cafe while inside of the Wicked Sister there that one day and was yelling nonsense about shootouts, okay? Because I couldn't agree with that point.
First off, that wasn't nonsense. That was truth. Right. That wasn't nonsense.
Yeah, I guess it's true. But you have a bunch of teams that, just have nothing to lose. And they went into their series and saying, oh, well, we're here. Let's have some fun. They're one of those guys off Goon where they're like, we're playing divorced guys. Remember that first movie was pointing out scenes? That's the kind of fun they're having in their locker room. The Carolina Hurricanes, the Colorado Avalanche, all these guys are just having a good time playing and enjoying the game. Now they're there and they're like, what the heck? We're here. And the big thing that I must say is that the teams that are out there right now are playing with so much confidence. I have not seen this from Carolina all year. I haven't seen this from the Dallas Stars, the Colorado Avalanche. So just the momentum is such an amazing thing in all sport, but just the game of hockey in particular. When you have that momentum, there's nothing that can stop you. The puck is flowing your way. The bounces are going your way. The goals are going your way. Everything is just awesome on the ice for you. And my whole thing about the second round is a bunch of teams that shouldn't have been there. Arguably, people say Boston should have been there, but that breaks my heart still. So I'm not going to include Boston in that saying. But you can't – this is why people love hockey. And everyone boos Gary Bettman, but I certainly hope everyone does not think he's an idiot because he's a fantastic commissioner. I know he has a team in Arizona.
Still an idiot.
Yeah, I know he has a team in Arizona, and I know he's trying to make it work. At least he's trying to make it work, okay? And if he moves a team from Calgary, then I might remove my fan from him, but I'm actually a fan of Gary Bettman, and he's improved the National Hockey League. They're making more money than ever. Heck, they're getting a 32nd team after next season with Seattle coming into the mix. So the NHL's loving this. People may be people look at it and say, okay, Toronto's out crappy, Calgary's out crappy. It's brutal for the Canadian market. Yeah, it sucks. Columbus, they're big in the playoffs. EJ, I think in the season they have a great fan base, but in the playoffs, they got that sixth man going in that Columbus.
They show up.
Stadium.
We are the fifth line. We are the fifth line, man. They show up.
That's it. That's exactly what I was thinking was the fifth line. They have that. Carolina, at the beginning of the year, they were thinking about relocating the team because they had no fans. Then they do the surge. Now they got a bunch of fans. Now they're in the second round, and now they're a bunch of jerks. And you have Duke Blue Devil people all over there. You got all the bandwagon. This has been the greatest year for National Hockey League in terms of profit. And I give credit to Gary Bettman for what he's done for the league, for real.
Wow.
But I really do. I love how he gets booed. That's his thing. But you know what? I really don't think I'd want anybody else running the league right now unless he moves Calgary, like I said. The only Canadian team you should consider moving is Ottawa.
And let me jump in here to
cap. We got to move on, guys.
Yeah, it's not really a question. I just want to come in here and I want to cap off Dave's point here. You have 4 active series going on in the NHL right now. And in 3 of those 4 series, you have teams with the potential to make it and win their first Stanley Cup. You have the St. Louis Blues, you have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and you have the San Jose Sharks. And these are all 3 teams. I mean, even take Carolina. They have 1 cup, whatever. Throw them in there. You have 3 teams. If not, you can throw Carolina in there with their 1 cup because they're playing against the Islanders. 3 to 4 teams with the potential to either win their first cup or add their second in minor markets. I think that this is great for the growth of hockey, and I think the NHL playoffs is spot on right now.
It is, and I'll cap it off right now, Scott, because we're crunched for time. To wrap up my point and illustrate everything, because we're talking about the second round, and I branched off into different things, because that's what the second round's about, is all the effects it's had throughout the National Hockey League in general, and just with the fans, is that you have teams in there, like you said, the DJ said, just cap it off, that have nothing to lose. And I really think when you have that, it's absolutely dangerous. I couldn't agree more with DJ's point. And you have a series that I'm actually watching. And when you have fans that are Toronto Maple Leaf fans that are absolutely crushed, okay, I'm just the minor sake of it right now, and you still have fans watching it, that means you have their attention. And they're all exciting hockey games to watch. They're all exciting storylines, and they're great to see. And at the end of the day, when you have teams like this in the second round, the NHL couldn't have asked for anything more. I'm excited to see how the rest of the rounds go. And as I mentioned, I have San Jose and Columbus going all the way, baby, to the Stanley Cup final. And I got Jumbo Joe, my boy, former Greyhound, former first overall pick, lifting that cup finally and being able to sail off into the sunset. It just would cap off such an amazing season. And these second rounds is going to be very exciting to watch the entirety of it. And I certainly hope the refs don't blow a call or make a bad call like they do in some football or basketball games, because they can ruin a game. And none of these games have been ruined, in my opinion. I love what's being put on the ice. I love all the fans that are involved in the little market. Everyone who's not a fan of the second round, you may as well shut up, sit up, and not watch hockey anymore, because that means you're not a true fan of hockey. And you got to enjoy the stuff that's going on for sure.
Well said, gentlemen. Let's move on. We have time for one quick topic here before we get to our thumbs up and thumbs down. NFL draft was, a lot this weekend. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. An estimated 600,000 fans attended it in person in Nashville. Wow, the visuals were amazing, seeing that many people on the street. And, the NFL does a good job of putting on a very good show. It's as American as apple pie here, and Roger Goodell booed for the first few selections, which I like. Kyler Murray, the first pick out of Oklahoma, second straight first pick out of Oklahoma for their quarterbacks. The last one worked out pretty good, as EJ would attest to. In Mr. Mayfield, Nick Bosa goes second, the defensive end out of Ohio State to San Francisco. Quentin Williams, third defensive tackle, Alabama, goes to the Jets. Then they got a little unpredictable. Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson, the fourth pick for Oakland, a defensive end. That was kind of surprising. The Giants go for the Duke quarterback and Daniel Jones at 6. We talked with Butch about the Lions pick. They pass on Ed Oliver, and they go with TJ Hawkinson, which has caused Lions fans a lot of stress in some circles. Paul Van Wagner. 10th pick, Pittsburgh trades up to get Devin Bush, the linebacker for for Michigan, the guy that, of course, was famous for scraping out the helmet on the Michigan State field. Hopefully he'll figure out a way to beat an Ohio team in his career now. He had a hard time doing that while at Michigan. And lots of other things we could talk about, but we're short on time, gentlemen. So I'm going to go to you first, EJ. In less than 4 minutes, I want you to recap what you thought of the draft, maybe particularly on your Cleveland Browns and in general, and then we'll go to Dave. We'll have more time to talk about this as the weeks go on, but just a brief snapshot of your thoughts of the NFL draft in 4 minutes. Go.
Well, I think that what's hello, can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, hold on. All right, is that better? Everybody good? We're good? We're here?
Better. Go ahead, EJ.
All right, I'll take 3 minutes.
There we go.
Detroit Lions, TJ Hawkinson there, that total reach. I think that they could have traded back, gained another pick, found a way to got him.
Yep.
The New York Giants, absolutely crazy, in my opinion, for not taking Dwayne Haskins with that pick. I think he's the most NFL-ready quarterback in this draft. Threw 50 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in an absolutely difficult cold weather conference. I don't understand how as a GM you can make that pick. But I think that what people need to understand there is that Daniel Jones camp is very, very friendly with the Manning family. And this is a guy that came recommended by both Peyton and Eli, a guy that's gameplay is very, very similar to Eli Manning's. But this is also a guy that's thrown 2 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in a game. This is a guy that lost, 37-7 to Wake Forest in PP football conference. The ACC is really not, outside of Florida State, Virginia Tech, and Clemson, it's not the greatest football conference right now. So I thought that was a dumb pick. I think that the Redskins absolutely got a steal with Dwayne Haskins at 15. But I like what the Browns did, adding Greedy Williams in the second round, probably the best overall cover corner in this draft, adding a lot of good players in their lineups. I think that most teams came out okay. I do think that the 2 teams that came out losers, though, are the Oakland Raiders and the New York Giants, just not hitting all the boxes they should hit. So that's my short version of the draft. Other than that, I really don't have a lot of problems. Happy to see that another Oklahoma quarterback goes first overall. And I've been trying to find this stat, and I'm not sure if this is true or not. Is this the first time in NFL history where 2 Heisman Trophy winners from the same school both went number 1 overall in 2 consecutive drafts? I think that it is. I'm not sure. But that's kind of cool. That's a cool thing to see, too. They probably should have put Kyler Murray on a step stool before he hugged the commissioner. He's a little bit short there. And I got a meme to share with the 2 of you that'll make you just wet yourself. But I'm really happy with the NFL draft. I think that Nashville put on a great show. And to add one little thing to the mix here, there were actually, I read an article that there were many bachelorette parties that went to Nashville and had no idea that the draft was going on. And we're quite upset. And we're quite upset. So shame on them for not looking at their calendars. I heard one of these women may or may not have yelled at her significant other or husband for not telling her about planning this out. But listen, it's your fault if you don't check the calendar. But a lot of cool things in Nashville, and I thought they put on an absolutely great show.
Dave, EJ did his part on keeping it brief. Your thoughts on the NFL draft? Your Steelers traded up and got a Michigan guy.
They sure did. Now, if everyone
that was a great pick, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
Absolutely. If you look back at the Sports Center show from last week, yours truly, I'm not going to gloat here, but I predicted that the Steelers are going to move up and trade with Denver to get that pick. Wow, I must have some inside information on the Steelers. No, I don't. I will not.
Who do you know?
Who do I know? I must know Mike Tomlin. The guy's desperate, reaching out for advice.
Give me his number.
They have a thing in Pittsburgh with Devin Bush. I am in. That's all I'm gonna say. I am on board. I was pumped when I heard they made that trade. I literally was almost as pumped as when Toronto Maple Leafs won Game 5 of the Stanley Cup playoffs against Boston Bruins. Okay, that's how excited I am about that pick. That's how much expectations I have on that pick. But one pick that stuck out to me, Okay. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to give a quick little brief thought about the draft. I'm not going to go too much detail because we have a show Wednesday from Sports Center, and that's where my full intake and the boys here in Sioux, Ontario's intake will be. But the 3rd round pick, the one pick that the Pittsburgh Steelers traded to Oakland for, and they drafted Deontay Johnson. He is a 5'10 receiver with great hands and great speed. The last person that they drafted that had the same description with great hands and speed was Antonio Brown. Now, is this guy Antonio Brown? Whoa, I'll pump the brakes. But when it comes to receivers, this guy is a steal in the 3rd round. I'm going to tell you right now, he's a good pick. The Steelers have some good young blood coming up in that receiving core. They have Juju Smith-Schuster's obviously the number one guy, but obviously you have James Washington who's in the air, Dante Moncrief, who hasn't caught more than 50 passes since, I believe, 2014 or 2015. So that's not the best thing unless he gets back to old form. They're going to have to replenish that receiving core along with adding to defense. But having Devin Bush as a starting point to everything is absolutely amazing, and I couldn't be more pumped about that trade. Now, I will say that I was not surprised that Kyler Murray went to the Arizona to the Cardinals, because Josh Rosen, has been the subject of being moved potentially, and when he got traded to the Miami Dolphins, I was not surprised that. Obviously, you got to know when they drafted Murray that they were going to go that route. And Lions fans, I know you guys are being very hard on their pick. They did draft a good tight end, though. But there's one thing way too high. Okay, I get it. They definitely could have traded down. For sure, they could have traded down, and they could have picked him at a later pick. But at the end of the day, the losers of the draft, in my opinion, I couldn't agree more, EJ. The Oakland Raiders, I feel like they could have did a couple more things. They could have been a bit more spicy, with what they picked. But at the end of the day, I think a big winner in the draft, and I'm not being the word I'm trying to think. I'm not trying to be biased here, but I think are the Pittsburgh Steelers. You move up to get Bush in the draft. I'm a fan of that. I think they're big winners of the draft, and when you have that kind of those players chosen like that who can make those effects, it's great. But one player that I said to watch out for, that I was the undoubtable 2nd overall pick, Nick Bosa. Okay, big fan of that defensive end from Ohio State. I know that's another
Ohio State.
I'm giving Ohio a lot of love today with Columbus in that. And another pick to watch out for that people may really shake their heads at, but I don't really care, is Brian Burns of Florida State, the defensive end. You got to keep an eye on Brian Burns, the defensive end. I think that was a good pick by the Carolina Panthers to make that selection. I think there's a guy that could have potentially went in the top 10, in my opinion, based on his score and the way his combine was. But Devin Bush, welcome to Steeltown. Teams that disappointed, Oakland Raiders. Teams that made some good picks, Pittsburgh, Carolina. And also Denver trading down and drafting a tight end. I think they're also one of the losers. But the biggest loser in the draft for me is still the Oakland Raiders. Yes, Khalil Farrell, defensive end from Clemson. Good pick, but I feel like they could have did a lot more at the draft. But I'll get into more detail this upcoming Wednesday from SportsCenter.
Very good. And no truth to the rumor that Burns is related to former Toronto Maple Leafs coach Pat Burns. Correct there, Dave?
Let's go with that. I like it.
Before your time. Let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. I will start thumbs up just to the NFL draft and the coverage. I mean, you watch that first round, the visuals going down, whatever the main street is in Nashville, and just seeing the humanity of people. It started raining. The fans were there. The NFL just does. We talk a lot about the things they don't do right, but boy, does the NFL do a lot of things right. And so big thumbs up for the NFL draft and a big thumbs up for the NHL playoffs. We've talked about it on this show. Dave, you've talked about it on your show. It's a lot of fun watching these games. Every night there's games, 1 or 2 games. It's a rare night tonight that there's only 1 game on, but it's just been a lot of fun, a lot of action, and a lot of nice stories. Like you said, unexpected stories. I'm still holding out for my Tampa Winnipeg pick. It still might happen, maybe at some point, but it certainly won't this year. I got a couple thumbs down.
Year.
Thumbs down to the Dallas Cowboys as far as their draft picks. In the 5th round, they took, I'm not making this up, back-to-back Michael Jackson and then Joe Jackson. Now, clearly, LaToya and Tito were off the board at that point. You would think they might have gone with LaToya. Janet, obviously, her best days are past her. She didn't make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this weekend. They're along with The Cure, one of my favorite bands, but I digress. So Michael Jackson and Joe Jackson, really, you're going to take just a little joke there. No offense to those 2 actual football players who I'm sure will have great careers, but maybe not the right time to take the Jacksons. And thumbs down, and EJ, you're not going to like me on this one because this guy's a Browns fan. I'm not the biggest social media fan. I'm on Twitter because I have to because of broadcast.
Don't do it.
I'm not a big social media fan, especially when dopes like this guy do stuff like this. There is a Cleveland Browns fan down at the NFL draft, and he found this girl that was there and took a picture with said girl, and then took a picture and didn't realize who this girl was. And so a big effort on social media was put out to try to find this young lady who he chatted with, had this amazing connection, because it's what this generation does. I sound like an old man right now, is take the social media for everything. I ate a dinner. Oh, let's put 50 pictures on Instagram, stuff like that. Well, unfortunately for this guy, it did not have a happy ending because there was a reply showing this nice young lady with her husband. And I like what this guy said in his response, because this guy went out, I'm wondering who this lady is. Please find her. And this guy said, very cool. Was her husband a nice guy? I like that guy's sense of humor. Stay off of social media, people. It's stupid. I lost. EJ Russell, your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week.
First thumbs up for the week, Pete Carroll. And the reason I want to do this, Dave's got it. DK Metcalf was one of my picks in the draft that I was curious to see where he landed. And number one, I thought the phone conversation between him and Pete Carroll was fantastic when he got picked. But DK Metcalf shows up to meet Coach Carroll for the first time shirtless. And what's Pete Carroll do? Pops his shirt off and goes and shakes that man's hand. And boy, was it funny. So I want to give thumbs up to Pete Carroll. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I do have a second thumbs up this week. I want to give a second thumbs up to Steve Kerr. Now, I'm a guy that you're not going to see give a whole lot of love to the Golden State Warriors. But Steve Kerr was doing an interview, I believe it was today, and a reporter from Houston bumped into him, and he flopped back into his chair, and I thought that was quite funny. So a little bit of credit to him for making light of the situation going on there, and adding a little bit more edge to the series. Thumbs down for the week, I think has to go to David Gettleman, GM from the New York Giants. I just don't see what it is that you're doing there with that team. I read one article that says he didn't even know what conference Dwayne Haskins played in. I mean, this is a player that was widely considered one of the top 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and you reached for a quarterback from Duke that lost to Wake Forest by 30-ish points. I don't care if he's recommended by Peyton Manning or not. I think Dwayne Haskins was a great pick, and I think that the Washington Redskins got him at an absolute steal. The only concern I have there is that former Buckeye going to that team, that quarterback with a ton of potential, has got to go and play for Dan Snyder, a guy that, as the owner of that organization, has made some questionable decisions as to recommending what needs to happen with his organization. Redskins need some work there. But thumbs down to Dave Gettleman. What are you doing, bro? Get it together.
Get it together, indeed. Let's go to Dave McKeag for his thumbs up and thumbs down for the week.
I'm going to go off the board for the thumbs up, and hopefully that is okay. I got 2 thumbs up. First one's off the board. Very big surprise, but I love being full of surprises. to the Avengers Endgame movie. Okay.
Oh, come on. I'm so over superhero movies.
I gotta do that. I won't get a full detail. Shattering box office records, but such a good movie.
You don't get to do that without bringing up Game of Thrones then.
I actually don't watch Game of Thrones. What I do is I watch the last episode of each. I watch the last episode of each season just so I say I'm caught up. How's that make you feel?
I like it.
I've never been more disappointed than I am in you right now.
100%. My roommate one time wanted to lose his mind on me. I got to say, Avengers, they absolutely killed it. That movie did make me sad, Scotty. I don't cry, but that was a very good movie. And fans who haven't seen it, get your butt out there to watch. It's worth the watch. But my second thumbs up.
Here, Dave. Move on.
Second thumbs up. Got to go to both second thumbs up with two teams, Steelers and Blue Jays. Steelers trading up for Bush, and Blue Jays on a tear right now. And Vladimir Jr. absolutely coming up and making a big impact.
Yes.
Love that kind of stuff, buddy. Love it very much. Thumbs down. Sorry, people from the Sioux, and if he listens to this, he can reach out to me and respond back to hopefully come on the show one time. Kyle Dubas.
Shots fired.
Kyle frickin' Dubas. I'm giving him thumbs down. His press conference, I've never seen a young man be more nervous. I'm sorry, call me crazy. When he was answering questions, he gave some good answers, but you can tell he was looking at the reporters saying, oh, crap. Like he was trying to say the most textbook answers, okay? Oh, it's got to go through Shanahan. It's got to go through this. It's got to go through that. All these trades he could have made at the deadline now that he didn't do. All these questions, everything that he's doing, the way he's handling it right now, not a big fan, Dubas. The inexperience is being shown right now. Prove me wrong and shut up all the other Leaf fans. I wasn't a fan of that press conference at the end with him. I feel like he could have said more and he could have did more all year but didn't do it. But he's got a second chance this summer and this season to make up for it, but still thumbs down with that press conference.
Gentlemen, we got to wrap up the show. Let's go around the horn one more time. Again, we're going to be off next week. Our next show at the Wicked Sister will be on Monday, May 13th. EJ Russell at Moe's Pub in Escanaba, Michigan. What's up for you the next couple weeks? I see you've been having some success catching fish lately.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know we cover sports on this show, and I don't know how much you consider fishing a sport.
I do.
But okay, good. Well, then I'll have some news to report on my own front. I've actually decided and jumped in. I am doing Upper Peninsula Kayak Anglers' first online fishing tournament in the month of May. So this is going to be taking place from May 1 through May 30. 30 days in May, yeah. But it's
31.
It's going to – wow, great. I get an extra day out of this. But it's the first tournament that I will be participating in. I've worked really hard to get to the point where I feel confident enough as an angler, and I understand that as traditional sports fans, they may not care to hear this, but I've worked really hard to be what I'd consider a proficient angler, especially when it comes to bass fishing, and I consider myself jack of all trades. I go after a little bit of everything, but I'm jumping into the tournament angling scene here. I've got my boat ready. I've got some lures and gear that I've purchased recently to prepare myself. I think I've pre-fished this tournament well enough that it's going to go well. So hopefully on the show, I'll have some updates for you as this goes along. Winner, we're looking at a couple hundreds of dollars in prize money on the line here, which is probably how much I've spent on lures in preparation for this tournament. But we'll see how it goes. That's my big exciting news coming up here. Always great deals going on at Moe's Pub, as always. Typically, we have Monday night bingos. Unfortunately, that didn't come together this week due to some staffing issues. But Tuesday night trivia, Monday night bingo, always great special fish tacos here on Fridays that are absolutely fantastic. Come on down to Moe's Pub in Escanaba, where the beer is always cold and the people are friendly.
EJ, thanks for joining us. And, hey, you can talk fishing anytime. My dad's an avid fisherman. He taught me that. And fishing is always welcome on this show, as well as hunting as well.
Well, we can do a fishing segment. I mean, I'm happy to do that. But I understand most of our listeners probably don't care to hear that. But thanks for the invitation, and happy to be here as always. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, EJ. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks. Dave McKegg, I know you got a lineup of shows this week. Tell us where you can find them and what's going on.
Busy as always with shows. Tuesday, tomorrow, we'll be at Icebreakers. We'll be there talking, just to recap some more locals, some final thoughts. Hopefully John Parko can come on by to come on to talk there. I'm hoping to confirm Brad will be there. Just in the middle of confirming everything for tomorrow, but we do plan to be there around 8 o'clock tomorrow night or so. Wednesday, we'll be at Sports Center, myself, Jamie, and Matt Primo, and potentially Justin Heichel. We'll have a Sabercat on there as we do each week, and we're going to be discussing all the local football, some NFL draft reaction, and some bonus topics in our roundtable for a year-round in the pocket segment, and just in general all around sports and with the NBA playoffs. Thursday, we will be at North Superior Brewing Company. We'll be there at 6:30 p.m. Myself and Justin Heichel will be there. Potentially, we're hoping that Brad can even come by that one as well. We're going to be talking everything with the NHL playoffs and just recapping more of the hockey news, baseball news, and up-to-date news there. As Scott mentioned, next week, we will not have shows really next week between Tuesday, Thursday, and Wednesday, but we do plan to have a Facebook Live show is what we're potentially planning on doing.
Ooh, is this a first, Dave? A Facebook Live show?
Potentially at first. It's going to be broadcasted on my Facebook page and the Game Sports Show Facebook page. We're going to have all the shows from 1 week combined into one in under an hour. I promise you. I believe.
Oh, wow.
We're going to try. We're going to try.
Good luck. We can't do this in under an hour.
So we're going to try to plan that out. We're in the middle of it. It's not locked in yet. We have a new mixer that we're going to be using, and we have to get some different equipment to use. We're in the middle of trying to acquire, so middle of doing all that. So we will announce that by Thursday or on our Facebook page or Instagram page by the end of the weekend for next week, as we're pretty excited to be able to do a Facebook Live show where you get to see my and my co-host pretty faces. Not mine. I'm just kidding. But
can we just look at your co-host and not you?
Yeah, I'll put a mask on. You know, maybe I'll put just a little Freddy mask on or something, or Jason. Yeah.
And the reason, EJ, I don't know if you know this, the reason we're not having a show next week is broadcast engineer and board op Scott Nason will be on a beach and on a ship in the Bahamas with his beautiful girlfriend.
That's an excuse. Yeah,
it is an excuse. I figured I'd use it too.
I spend my vacations, and I've gone on vacation back home. I didn't miss Scotty. All right, I don't miss lots of shows. That's an excuse. Dave and I'll run this.
At least,
good. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. We went a little long, but we'll talk to you both in a couple weeks here.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of The Game, and we will be back on Monday, May 13th for our next edition, sponsored by the Wicked Sister and heard on Eagle 95.1 and online at thegamesportshow.com.